All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We are live. It's the Friday night edition of the Rem Pod. We have a lot to get to here. We just had another Argentina World Cup Classic, and I tell you what, Mike, this Messi guy, he's kind of like Mahomes. Every time they need him to make a play, he just goes right down the field and gets a clutch drive. But hey, just every time, a dramatic game for Messi and Argentina here. We have a classic NBA game queued up next to it in the background in honor of one of the trades we'll get to in a second. We got a little Dr. J, Moses Malone. That's right. We still care about NBA history here on the Rem Pod. Throwing on the classic games on the YouTube. So again, in honor of one of the moves that we'll get to. And speaking of, we've got our list of moves here as well. NBA moves. We got our eyes on everything, chat, right now. Ayo, pause. I'm seeing here DeAndre Jordan signed a contract. I didn't even know that's got to be money laundering. I didn't even know he was still playing. But hey, again, there's a lot going on, but we do have to kind of start this off with a bit of a call out. Hey, typically not a typical Rem and Sam move. I don't know if we're, typically, pause beef with the other, the people in the industry. Hey, but we do have to call somebody out to start, and I'm still kind of like half formulating the call out. The challenge, I guess, is maybe what we're gonna say. The call out, I guess, is locked in. Hey, the challenge is what we're still kind of working through here. But I've heard the same story twice in the last couple of weeks that keeps wanting me to make the call out. So I'm like, okay, we just have to do it. Pause. It is what it is. But shout out. We're not calling out Van Lathan, though. Obviously, if he wants to call in, he definitely can. The lines are open. But we were listening to the Higher Learning Pod the last couple of weeks, and he keeps telling this story about Brian Scalabrine. Ayo, do we have to pull up Brian Scalabrine here? We got to get his stats going, chat, in the background. Let's see what we've got for Brian Scalabrine. NBA personality, do you say? Obviously, NBA player, NBA veteran. 2008 NBA champ, 3 points a game for his career. Got to 6 points a game there, 2004, 2005 in New Jersey. 14 games, started 21 minutes a game. So, again, was obviously a very good role player over the course of his career. We're obviously saying that just, obviously there's, I guess, multiple ways you could say that. We're saying it respectfully, but, either way, the story that we keep hearing on the Higher Learning Pod is Scalabrine would basically just play like normal people in one-on-one because his claim was that Brian Scalabrine's claim is that in talent, that Scalabrine is closer to LeBron than like an average person is to Brian Scalabrine. Again, like, I guess, this is how Brian Scalabrine has to justify his NBA talent, not just the fact that he's in the NBA, but also that he's closer to LeBron than I am. But I don't know about that, chat. Again, I don't know if Scalabrine's giving LeBron enough credit there. LeBron's pretty good. And I know Scalabrine's pretty good in his own right, but again, LeBron's like arguably the greatest basketball player ever. So, if Scalabrine had said like, Steve Smith, I don't know, what the, average, shout out, obviously Steve Smith, very talented forward, Grant Hill even, but, is there a different lane of guy that Scalabrine could call out? Scalabrine, he's like, I'm closer, and obviously that's the hot take as well too. It's like, I don't know if you really are closer in talent to LeBron than we are. So I think the challenge that I'm trying to cook up here is, and I guess it's going to take some work to get, maybe not to get Scalabrine involved, but maybe to get, is I think we got to try to play Brian Scalabrine one-on-one, and then Scalabrine has to play LeBron one-on-one, and then we compare the scores basically. So again, even if I lose in one-on-one to Scalabrine, I just have to keep it closer in that game than Scalabrine keeps it to LeBron, if that makes sense. So if we play like best to 11, if he's gonna be like, you're not gonna get 4 points. I guess, Scalabrine, an active NBA player right now, but again, still obviously pretty, the talent is still there. The shot making ability is there, even if the movement is, even if he doesn't move and he just stands there, he can probably just hit shots over us and, get to 11. But say it's like 11-4, Scalabrine versus Rem. Like, can Scalabrine play LeBron 11-3? Like, I don't know. Like, again, like, Scalabrine was averaging 3 a game for his entire career. So if I score 5, like, is he toast? Is he screwed against LeBron? Like, it doesn't seem like it's a. And maybe we have to go back and check some of these scores of these one-on-one games. And again, like, he was an active NBA player back then as well. But again, LeBron's still an active NBA player, so I feel like the claim still exists because one of them is still like currently in the NBA. Like, Scalabrine has to still step up to the challenge. If LeBron is still like, once LeBron retires and they're both retired players, it's like, okay, then it's just old guys talking about the days that passed. But up until they're both until one of them is still playing. So because LeBron is carrying Scalabrine here in this challenge, then maybe maybe there's something there. I guess he would have to play 2 games. I'm not saying hey chat, we're gonna Scalabrine's gonna be tired at pause after the first game, and he's not gonna be able to go up against LeBron. That first matchup was too much. I'm cooked. Hey yo, but I guess unless he his knee buckles or something, he didn't stretch properly before the match, and he's like, oh, I pulled a hamstring or something like that, then maybe there is that case for Scalabrine, I guess, playing 2 games versus LeBron there. But hey yo chat, if this means there has to be a second game where it's me versus LeBron and we compare the scores that way, I guess hey yo, we it is what it is. I guess we have to do it, for journalistic purposes. If that's where it goes, make no mistake. If Scalabrine is like, oh, well, you have to play LeBron, just like, fine, okay, I'll play LeBron one-on-one. Pause. Like, I guess you talked me into it. Hey, yo, like, even if it's like 11, he blocks a shot so bad they like take points away. It's like 11 to -3. Then hey, yo, I mean that'd be a fun matchup. So it'd be cool to obviously get that opportunity. So, again, we're calling out Scalabrine, but if we can kind of also call out LeBron as well too, to help us out, I guess, Chad, that's going to be the tough part. So we could at least get the first score set in stone, right? So if it's me versus Scalabrine, then we have it out there, and then it's like, we just keep adding points to the score. Chat's 11-6 now in our hypothetical. We're gonna be winning this by the end of the pod. It is what it is. How can we win a game versus Scalabrine in 2026? I don't know. He is taller. That's the reason that it's gonna be a challenge. I don't even care. Can he dunk still? As long as he can't dunk, then it's not gonna be like embarrassing. If he's just hitting shots over us like it is. Again, he's an NBA player. He should be doing that at some point. But if it's like we're playing against Vince Carter, and it's like, oh, Vince Carter like dunked on you still, and he's like 50. It's like, okay, that's you definitely don't want that clip out there. I guess Scalabrine like crossing us up or something. Some kind of maybe cool post move. He gets us to bite on some kind of up and under. It's like, oh, he fakes us out. But even that, I don't know. It's still like yeah, maybe he talks trash, but still, it's not like the highlight. I feel like the highlight doesn't live in eternity. Oh, Brad Scalabrine cooked this guy with a post up. Like, that's got, I think, a quick life on Instagram. But I could be wrong. You never know. I mean, Scalabrine, I guess if it's really funny, trash talk. Maybe that would be the way that it backfires. It backfires there, and hey, the clip lives on. But I think that we can lose to Scalabrine closer than Scalabrine can lose to LeBron. If that's the claim that he's making. But again, I've heard that story the last couple of weeks, listening to the podcast. I think last week I was like, oh, do we call out Scalabrine? Last week I was like, oh, I don't know, Chad, we'll leave him alone. Scalabrine doesn't need us out here calling him out for a random basketball game. But then he used the story again, and I was like, oh, it's just a sign that it's a sign that Scalabrine needs called out, I guess. Hey, somebody's got to challenge his LeBron claim. So I guess maybe that's the part that he hasn't had yet is the actual, he hasn't played LeBron, chat. Hey, yo, he should have done that earlier. Honestly, I don't know. He would have still gotten it. Still would have not been good. I guess, I don't know how LeBron's what, like 41 now. So Scalabrine 48. So, again, even, I don't know what age it would even have been its closest at that point. Again, hey, yo, like, I guess when was he his best, chat? What year was that? Let's go back and see real quick. He was 26, 27 in 04, 05. He was 26 when he was scoring his career high that year. So, LeBron would have been 20, 22, 20, or what are they, 7 years apart? So, even, I guess what, like rookie LeBron at 19, I guess, yeah, 04, 05 would have been his second year. So second year LeBron versus, year 4, year 5 Scalabrine. Like, it's still like, it's still not going to go well. because even if the, the shot making is still not even the best version for LeBron, obviously the athleticism is just going to carry there. It is what it is. Obviously, hey, again, it's LeBron. But, again, the point is not that, because that's always the thing. It's like, oh, could you win against an NBA player? Could you, there can be some unreasonable smack talk there, I guess. We're not even saying that. But maybe even thinking that we could get a point is unreasonable. I don't know. But again, the claim is that we can just lose by less amount of points, basically. So, again, obviously it relies on LeBron really cooking Scalabrine as well, too. If LeBron's not taking the challenge as seriously, then, hey, then we're screwed. It is what it is. But I feel like, what LeBron doesn't want to play Scalabrine one-on-one and then have it to be like, 11-9. Especially since Scalabrine's been in the media for like a decade and a half at this point. So, again, that would be even a little bit more embarrassing. But, regardless, I feel like he would want to, still prove prove that there's a little bit of a degree of separation there between the, just, any NBA player and LeBron. Obviously, it's just the competitive nature there. But I think it's possible. I think it's possible. So we may have to use the day off tomorrow to try to go, we're going to be getting in reps, Chad. We got to go set up the cones at a basketball court somewhere and be like, what do you do? It's like, we're training because we just called out Brian Scalabrine. So, you never know. We have to be ready. Hey, but it's like, it's like Kendrick. Like we're not stepping up, dropping a verse on a Future song, not prepared with the tracks. I guess he didn't necessarily have the tracks when he called them out, right? But he was ready to go at that point. And obviously he knew, I guess, what his strategy was going to be as well, because he took the time. Well, he took the time after push-ups to wait and I guess prepare at that point. But even still, like, was that just to write the one song, or just, who knows what the movement was, collecting, what kind of, info he was trying to get at some point? I don't know. But, even not like us. And I'm trying to remember all the references that he made to the different Drake diss tracks in his own diss track. So again, it was like he was also writing in the moment as well, too. So it's not like he just sat there for a month and then wrote all 5 tracks and then was like, oh, boom, 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 just like, drop all 5 of them back to back to back or whatever. Again, there was content matter that it was like you needed, like, Drake had to write the verse first and then he had to respond to it. And how did he respond to it so quickly? Was obviously, I guess we'll have to go back and watch the academics reaction again and just watch it all fall apart for the for the Drake side of things there. But I think it's in Not Like Us that he references Family Matters or something like that. But either way, I guess we're always not training. For basketball, we're never too far away from playing. Obviously, I guess the winter months here in the Midwest, but I guess Scalabrine, he's up in Boston for his media job, so it's not like he still's got the winter. I guess he's probably got access to an indoor court that we don't have at this point. So maybe the winter months would be the time to catch us when we're not actively being able to play as much. But again, that's why we're calling him out right now. Because the summer, it's like, okay, we're get some reps in. We were getting some shadow jumpers in. Do we even the basketball reveal chat? Hey, it's right here. We don't want to give him any film to break down and know, oh, if I time it this way, I know how to block his shot. See, we're not giving him any advantage. I feel like setting up into the jumper was almost too much, chat. Hey, we're gonna have to rework our whole form just so he doesn't, see that clip there. But see, again, now we're thinking 3D chess. He's not prepared. He's not gonna be, he's not gonna rework his whole jumper for this game. Hey, it's like his golf swing. He's like, no, this is like this is the jump shot I've had my entire life. Hey, I guess that is something that has gone away a little bit, and I guess not really, because you do get some guys like, I guess like Lonzo had a bit of a funny jump shot there for a while, but even Jokic has, a bit of that side set shot. Obviously there's a lot of Larry Bird comparisons, but even the jump shot is one of them as well too. It is funny that I guess Jokic is just bigger Larry Bird, in some ways. I guess I don't know, what's funny about it. I guess it's just what's funny about it is just that Larry Bird, like the next version of Larry Bird is just like, just like a pudgier, bigger guy. Hey, pause. I don't know, because like, I guess, you get like kind of the Durant, Wemby sort of, timeline there. I don't know. Even some of the the forwards, I guess even the guards as well too. Like, MJ had Kobe right after him, and it's like basically a carbon copy. The play styles of what they were able to accomplish, but even just the what do you say, like the combine stats for those guys, like they were both about the same height as well too. So, and even wearing similar numbers and stuff. Both two guards, like obviously, again, they were just very, very, very similar players. And, even a guy like Shea is not like, again, he's still like kind of a two guard like those guys. He's actually probably a little skinnier than MJ and Kobe. And Wemby's probably a little skinnier than Durant is. I don't know, pound for pound, maybe. I'm not sure. But or like Giannis compared to like, I don't know, Hakeem or Tim Duncan. Like people were like comparing Giannis to Tim Duncan. Or maybe Giannis is more like Kevin Garnett in some ways. I don't, again, just, great power forwards. Are you comparing sort of resume or play style or whatever? But, you get the sort of this, pretty similar sort of vibe in some ways. And, again, obviously Jokic is, I guess you can't say like Jokic is better than Larry Bird. Obviously he's playing in the modern era where the 3-point opportunity is increased. He is, his field goal percentage is a little bit better. So I guess you would say that is like the modern day, like, oh, this is the better version of it. Because it's like, oh, everybody now is better than back then. It's just to the basic fan, hey yo, this is why we keep the classic games on, chat, because even hey yo, I guess maybe we got to trust some of the people that were actually watching games around at this time as well too. We don't trust them, chat, but even still, I feel like sometimes the historians themselves even maybe underrate how sometimes the older player would just bring them into the modern time, how they would play. Again, I just using Dr. J as an example, like, yes, he's going to be limited if you're bringing him in with just some of the general basketball skill set. Again, the 3-point shooting as well too, and maybe it's really era specific to now where basketball has gotten into the 2020s compared to where it was 10 years ago, sort of with the Warriors. You don't want to call it like the D'Antoni era because the Rockets never won a title or anything, but just sort of the evolution of how the NBA was trying to figure out how, to run offense and maximize 3-pointers. And now, of course, mid-range stuff, post, there's a little more variety back in the game now. You're not necessarily just like, we're taking 100% every 3-pointers in every game. But, again, even though Dr. J, like, oh, he's not going to be, pause, like banging in 39% from 3 right away. Is Dr. J just not the best version of like Aaron Gordon that we would have in the league? So, I'm sure that he's still, and that would be, obviously, it's like, okay, is Aaron Gordon going to take a team to 50 wins by himself? But maybe the best version of Aaron Gordon is a guy that could, be an Eastern Conference Finals type of guy. So, hey, I guess I don't even know where we got off with Jokic being the the next version of Larry Bird. But it is funny because, again, Larry Bird was also like, like a kind of an, I guess we're saying it respectfully, right? There's no shame in it. It's, it's the story of his career. He was a great player. Larry Bird's like kind of like an iconic, like smoker drinker guy for the NBA. Hey, yo, it is what it is. I guess I'm just assuming he's a smoker, but I think he was kind of a drinker there, wasn't he? Hey, I guess I'm saying that like it's like an old term. Hey, yo, like he took to the bottle, chat. Hey, yo, or something. But I guess what other old phrases? Moonshine. Hey, yo, like can you throw out there for it? But I feel like, and again, it's not like, hey, yo, guess who else drinks, chat? Again, like the entire population of America back then as well, too, and still now. But it's just obviously the athlete side of it where now we know, how that affects sort of athletic performance and different things. Again, it just, it's his profession. It's not, obviously just Larry Bird himself as well, too. It's just his profession is, gone. It trends a different way now in terms of the diet and how, some of the guys train. Hey, yo. So it's just funny that maybe like Larry Bird put some of that karmic stuff out there. So like his, again, like the next version of Larry Bird is like, again, it's like, oh, yeah. But Jokic, I was seeing some clips of, shout out to Jokic. Hey, yo, Jokic will be calling us out here real soon. Hey, yo. Because the Jokic brothers make no mistake. Those guys are rock solid. It is funny that, I guess that is funny too, that Jokic is like, do you say like the least defined of his brothers? Hey, yo. Because his brothers might be almost too, maybe it's actually good for Jokic. Like there's still like some, some fluidity there hey, like his brothers are just all muscle mass. They've got like no movement. But again, maybe I've never seen him running after me. So once I'm getting chased down by a Jokic brother, I'm like, oh, these guys are moving quick. Hey, yo. But what are we saying there? Yeah, again, shout out. He's obviously like everybody would say, 2026. Jokic would just cook Larry Bird in 1-on-1. It is what it is. But or I guess now, like, hey, yo, it's I guess, does it have to be the white guy lineage for Larry Bird? But I guess like Cooper Flag is now like back in, is that a little more, hey, yo, kind of like 2026 there for I guess, we can't, like, we're not, what are we, body shaming Jokic, Chad? We can't be doing that. Hey, yo, I guess, again, it's just maybe, it's not his fault, it's Larry Bird's fault for the way he acted, I guess, in his post playing career. I don't even know where we're going with this, chat. Hey, we're just trying to call out Scalabrini for a little 1-on-1. We're gonna have to be battling every legend now. It is what it is. But shout out. Here we are trying to watch old games and trying to be like, these guys are great. And now all of a sudden, I don't even know where we're off at this point. But I guess again, obviously the hot take, or like Moses Malone as well too. Like you just drop Moses. Like what skill does Moses Malone need? That he doesn't have to be dominant. Again, is that even a phrase? Did I say that right? He has everything that he needs to completely dominate the game. Like, I guess we could get to the, obviously the Philly trade at some point. Like peak Embiid, I guess was kind of, there was probably some Malone comparisons floated out there at some point. There's a Philly connection there as well too. So the Philly can we do the Kermit the Frog voice, chat? Oh, Philly connection. I guess I don't even know the song. It just came to mind. It is what it is. But what are we saying for Moses Malone? You just same player, same guy. You don't need to adjust Bill Russell, AO. Like, take all the legends and just put him in. Chat. Hey, yo, I guess Marvel, giving you a little free promo here. Put him in a little battle world scenario. If it was just a neutral court situation, then they're fine. It is what it is. You don't need to adjust their. I guess maybe give them some new shoes and things like that. Like you could hey, yo, be nice that way. Or now Bob Cousy has to play Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and he also has to wear Converses. Shea's got the new Converse and Bob Cousy's got the old Converse, and it's like, okay, like maybe there are easy sort of things that you could do there to even the playing field a little bit, where it's not just like, okay, give him a year to train the 3-point line. But even still, like, could Dr. J get a jumper in a year? I think he might be able to. Like, he could get his 3-point percentage. It'd be fine. And again, even if it wasn't, like, you're telling me Dr. J's athleticism, he's gonna be what's Amen Thompson shoot from 3-pointer right now? So I get Amen Thompson, he's good ball handling. My hot take: Dr. J goes up there and locks up Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson can't score, and Dr. J wins the game if it's a 1-on-1 Dr. J versus Amen Thompson. But Amen Thompson versus David Thompson, who wins? Obviously a super athletic player back in the day as well too. I guess if we're taking just the best athletes from the time as well, but even just maybe a more skill, footwork, I don't know, or maybe even just like a whatever level a guy was good at. Like, I think they're fine. Like, is Harrison Barnes versus, I think like Sidney Moncrief might be in the Hall of Fame. But it's like, again, what are these guys, again, like we're saying, there's a couple of guys that hit some 3-pointers now that's pretty cool. But nobody shoots 3-pointers when they go into the draft. I mean, look at this draft this year. Who was making 3-pointers in this year's draft? Like, everybody like kind of can. Like, it's like, oh, the form like can look good, and they're not. And I guess that's kind of where we got off on this pause, was saying like the old players' forms back in the day. That's what I meant to say. Was we've lost kind of the funny jump shot. Everybody's jump shot just looks the same now at this point. It's like all like kind of a perfect jump shot in some type of way. But for again, just like whatever level of player they needed to be, they would have been fine. Like Dembasta. Dembasta's like 30% right now. A Cuffs, again, all the guards were like kind of streaky from 3-point this year. Again, really talented, but we're gonna start getting to the place where people online are like, oh, Darius Cuffs better than Walt Frazier. or something like that. It's like, okay, you just can't watch YouTube highlights and just watch people zooming around. And I forget what I was listening to. I think it might have been some rewatchables pod, and it was they were talking about movie tech. Hey, yo, Chad, the basketball reference is struggling tonight. It is what it is. We might just have to give it a reset here. X out and go back. Wait a second. I'm remembering now. I'm recalling all the pieces. I think I was listening to the Exorcist rewatchables pod. Hey, yo, if that makes sense. But shout out. I think it does. Very popular pod. And they were talking about how jump scares carry over from time to, like, okay, The Exorcist is maybe not like as jump scary as some modern movies are, but they're like the overall horror vibe still does hold up. And the comparison that was made was, I think, to Dr. J and to Giannis. So I guess not to Kevin Garnett or Giannis or anything like that, but the comparison that was made on that pod was like, you go back and watch Dr. J highlights and then you watch Giannis highlights, and it's like, oh, Giannis is so much better than Dr. J. And again, I was like, well, I wasn't there for Dr. J, but I'm like, so much better seems like a little bit of a reach. Like, again, Giannis is like one of the extreme examples of that. Like, Giannis is like legitimately one of the most physically dominant players we've ever seen. Like, again, he's being compared to Shaq. So I guess, we've compared him to everybody tonight. But yeah, he's getting compared to Shaq at some point. So with Dr. J, it's like, okay, Dr. J can't play in the modern NBA because he can't play against Shaq. It's like, well, that was the point of having Shaq on your team, was, Shaq couldn't be stopped. Hey, he was just nobody could guard him. He was so physically imposing. Like, and that's kind of the Giannis, and I'm not saying that that's not a skill or something, but they're maximized that skill as well too. It's not like Mitchell Robinson's just ripping through the league at some point. His name's over here on the list of moves as well too, which is why I called him out. Hey, yo, shout out. I didn't mean to just take a random shot at Mitchell Robinson there. It's the health as to why, is the reason. Obviously, the skill's all there for him. He's best center in the league. But no, we shouldn't even be saying that. We just lost him in the finals. Hey, yo. But no, what are we saying for? Yeah, we were like, hey, yo, Dr. J just getting cooked by Giannis. I was like, what a sad, not a sad thing to think about, but I was like, I don't want to think about Dr. J just getting cooked by, a legend like that. And again, like Giannis, like kind of might be better all time than Dr. J anyways. Like, it's that, I guess now it's like, okay, now I've taken it the other way with the blasphemous statements here. But again, like, Giannis is, how many MVPs did Giannis win? Did he win 3 MVPs back in the day, Chad? Hey, yo. I mean, again, Giannis was pretty good. I guess Dr. J was pretty good as well, too. He won 4. And, and again, he was at a little bit of the ABA run there as well, too. So, yeah, one of them was ABA, 2, I guess all 3 of them, he won 3 ABA MVPs in a row. I mean, that's not nothing, Chad. Hey, yo, you still have to be pretty good to do that. And then he was, I guess, when he got to the NBA as well, too, a second, a first, a third, a fifth, a sixth. So, hey, yo, right away, like, still, immediately top-ish player in the league. Pause. But, again, like, one-on-one, who isn't Giannis cooking as well? So it's a little, I was like, that's a little unfair to call out Dr. J. Like, I don't know if that's, a perfect, the sort of what are we saying? Like, the technology advances type of situation, if I could say that respectfully, with referring to players involved as well too. But again, comparing it to like what we were hearing with the movie jump scares, it's like, yes, I mean, Giannis is cooking anybody today. Like, who else isn't also having a difficult time stopping Giannis? LeBron. I guess, obviously best version of LeBron is, pretty good chance there. But, even still, like, Miami Heat LeBron does not want to see Giannis in transition. I'm not saying, he doesn't want to see him, but obviously he's gonna step up to. LeBron's not gonna shy away from the challenge. Only what JJ Barea can make, or whatever. But what are we saying for? He's still obviously gonna, I guess, do what he has to do. Hey, yo, pause. But like, it's like a, like it's a, battle for, I guess, what battle can I compare it to, Chad? Hey, I was like, can I compare it to that one? Because maybe that's gonna sound sketch. But shout out, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. But what are we saying for again, LeBron? That's brutal. Hey, yo. Again, speaking of Kevin Garnett, like, I think LeBron would rather see Kevin Garnett in transition than Giannis. Again, no disrespect to Kevin Garnett, but Giannis might be like the number 2. Like, honestly, again, you might actually would want to see Shaq in transition over Giannis. Like, maybe Orlando Shaq is a little underrated in terms of him like flying up. I guess, LA. Giannis is a much more, fluid ball handler there Hey, yo, testing 1 2 3. Okay, I think we are back in. Hey, yo, we started talking about Shaq versus Giannis, and the YouTube says that it's too conspiratorial. I guess. Hey, they start disconnecting us. But again, like Giannis legitimately might be the number one guy in a fast break. You don't. I guess again outside of LeBron, like he might be the number one guy you don't want to see in a fast break. And then Dr. J again could just jump over you and dunk on you. So that's like a different type of thing. But and he still had obviously the athletic power as well too. I'm not saying that he didn't, but again, Giannis is just the absolute combo of both. So obviously, I feel like Giannis goes into more of like a one of one type of territory. I guess obviously, LeBron in some ways is like every great player in some ways is like a one of one, but again, he just kind of ascends into that extra level where it's like, okay, I don't know if you can start comparing guys all time to Giannis because again, Giannis is just one of the all time guys. Like, okay, you're not making that argument with MJ in the. I guess we weren't around in the '90s, but where they're like, oh, MJ would go back and cook these guys in the '50s. Like, I don't, were they even thinking about that? I'm not even sure. But again, obviously, it's still a little newer now, so the '90s guys aren't. Well, they are starting to get that treatment a little bit, where it's like, oh, are the '90s overrated? They didn't play defense. It's like both things are true. You can find games for now where they didn't play defense, and if you just go for the random, if you start pulling games from random January, December's, and formula again, NBA every team plays 82 games, so you can find your games to formulate your opinion on how the league looked at the time for sure, and the highlights there. But hey yo, chat. I feel like hey yo, I feel like the legends, chat, the NBA legends, they're getting left behind. It is what it is. We got Shea over here winning, especially with the parody now. I think that's what it is. I haven't quite figured out like maybe why, but I think it's the parody now. And back in the day, but again, even 10 years ago, it was just LeBron and Steph battling for the finals every year, and then Durant was like, well, I want to, join in, so pause. So I guess I'm going to have to join one of these teams. I'll go to the Warriors. But just the guys, and again, even before that, like we're saying, Shaq and Kobe, and, the 2000s were stacked as well, too. So it's not like that's some people say talent deficient era. Like, obviously a ton of great players there. But, again, like the amount of guys consistently breaking into the different sort of all-time, all-time discussion. But yeah, in some ways, the all-time discussion, the amount of guys that get to, enter their name into that group because they're winning the title. Like, we haven't had this type of run of different guys getting their name into the mix. And, again, obviously, Jokic and Giannis and a couple of other guys have been, Shea now, a couple of those guys have dominated the regular season awards side of things. But again, it was 1-2, and this was the way that the NFL has worked as well too for time and time again. And I guess now we've still had the Chiefs over here the last couple of years, so even still we've had some technical dynasties at play. I guess obviously maybe second half of the 2020s here, we'll see if start stacking some years, what it looks like if it starts looking a little different. But again, even football works that way where it's like you kind of have your 1-2. Yeah, again, so many great players can be playing at a time. But if you start looking at who's actually the winning player who actually ascended, again, just the NBA, the whole night, like take out a whole decade for the NBA of guys winning a title because MJ was there. So it's just like, again, all of these careers, it's just like we're saying, the 90s, like everybody's overrated in the 90s because now we're going to look back and be like, well, Brunson had a title, over Stockton. I guess, I would be fine with putting Brunson over Stockton, but just to throw out a name, I guess. Or I guess Isaiah Thomas has too. So, he has to be in the discussion still, in some ways. But again, it's like Charles Barkley versus some of these guys. I guess even, Malone to some degree, we have to start defending Karl Malone. Hey, probably never, but I got to think of names here from 90s players. Hey, even the guy trying to, we're still learning, chat, but either way what are you saying for for the decade, it's just like none of those guys get to be in the conversation the same way because of Jordan. And I'm sure the dynamics of the league as well too. Like the league is constantly like, just think about how much the salary cap, of course, is, obviously, pause risen over the last couple of years, but just the dynamics of how it works and how team building works now, the lotteries, the trading, the teams, even the way they think about tanking and the way the players think about the trades, and get just the NBA's little steps so much more different now than it was back in the day. And it's gotten to this place now where there's this, year to year parity, at least in this decade anyway. So, I don't know, again, obviously we can't claim that every year now for the NBA, going forward, we're never going to see repeat champions again. I'm sure, again, the league incrementally will change over time and something will swing back the other way, somehow. And, I'm sure the Spurs will rip off 4 titles in a row or something, right? But either way, 4 in a row. Hey, we just gave him a record-breaking one there. But what are we saying for the parity? Like, again, like Brunson gets to be in an all-time discussion now that guys and point guards in the 90s didn't get to be in. Shea got his title. Giannis, like we're saying, and Jokic got his title. You did have LeBron and Curry getting theirs for, the 2020s as well, too. But Kawhi in 2019, kind of started that parity run. Obviously, the Warriors were still together, so we weren't thinking about it. But at the time. And then, Tatum and Brown. Obviously, we got to get to the Jaylen Brown trade here at some point. But, again, even Tatum and Brown were able to get into that discussion. And like we were saying, after the title, this kind of felt like the first time. I mean, the Knicks are a little bit more of a veteran team as well, too, in some ways. Not like an old team, but, they're just not like, are they going to be together for the next 12 years? But, there was not that conversation immediately of like, oh, is New York going to repeat? Because, again, just the way the league looks right now, it's a combo of the state of the league and the team building dynamics and just, a little bit of, like we're saying, the New York basketball team themselves, though that's obviously a little disrespectful for a team that just won the title. But, again, that's the first time that I just, like, haven't even, and maybe just the least amount of ESPN we've been watching as well, too. But, kind of the first time that I haven't heard that as just an easy topic, or, a topic brought up as a thing to discuss about the team. It's like, oh, how is this team set up in the future? What is the odds that immediately they're just back and repeating? And, you looked at the FanDuel stuff as well, too, and it was like OKC and San Antonio just immediately, right back on top for the finals team. And if San Antonio wins a title here, like, that's not necessarily, the same type of franchise parity as it is, the Knicks being the first team in 50 years to win it there for their first in 50 years. But they obviously, San Antonio hasn't won in a decade now. So it's a new look team from the old, from the team in the past. So in terms of, again, the guys getting the names into the conversation, the teams in the cycles right now, like it is a new team that wins. And, again, it might not even be, if Philly wins the title next year, I guess we have to start saying these teams now that we jinx San Antonio. What other teams can we jinx here real quick? We have to jinx Boston. We have to jinx New York. What if New York wins the title? What if Boston wins the title? What if Denver wins the title? What if Miami wins the title? And I don't know who else is a threat at this point. We'll have to, see how the rest of the offseason, shakes out. Hey, where's LeBron going to go as the list continues to narrow down here? But, again, like for LeBron, that's unfair to just be like LeBron would cook everybody in the 50s. LeBron cooked everybody in the 2020s and in the 2010s and in the 2000s. Like LeBron literally did cook everybody in every decade almost. Like he was probably, he's probably weird. Oh, chat. We start talking about, okay, we disconnected on the rewriting history point, but testing 1, 2, 3. I think we are really good. The YouTube didn't like that, I guess, as well. But what were we saying there for the, I guess, the legends, the eras? I don't know. Dr. J. We're kind of just rambling about that stuff right now. But again, obviously, shout out to the NBA founding fathers chat. Those are the founding fathers that we that we like here on the Rem and Sam pod. The fathers that founded the NBA. The founding fathers of the Spurs franchise right now. Pop, the tank machine. Who the league rules that said that we could get 3 lottery picks in a row. Who wrote that constitution, chat, and gave us Dylan Harper, and with the Spurs drafted Harper, Wemby, and Castle. That, I guess that's that's the fun stuff that we that we're focused on here in the Remington pod. But what are we saying for remembering the NBA legends? Like we're saying, I feel like they're even getting lost now to the historians as well too, because again, you can't compare anybody to Giannis. Giannis is too special. I don't know, Chad. That just got on our nerves, I guess, going back and listening to the Extras pod, just getting that NBA point randomly dropped in there. And again, we love Giannis. Giannis is one of our favorite players of all time. And I guess I would say that obviously we watch Giannis over Dr. J. So it's not a hot take to say that I would maybe he would be more like Giannis would be more of a favorite player than Dr. J. But just to say, like, it's, to say that Dr. J his game doesn't fit in the modern NBA because he would get cooked by Giannis. It's like, again, if Giannis played Devin Booker and just destroys Devin Booker, it's like, okay, Devin Booker couldn't play in the 2020s because one-on-one versus Giannis. Like how many guys could, Giannis, and I guess in some ways it is like kind of true. I guess, you obviously, if you can't hang with Giannis, pause. Like, I guess, again, what does that mean? Like, Giannis is one of the best players of all time. But either way, shout out to Dr. J. We'll defend your legacy here on the pod, chat. Hey, and I guess it just hit me now as well, too, pause, that the guy that we heard make that point was a Boston fan. So, maybe there was a rivalry there as well, too, with Dr. J. But, we're not gonna let that influence how Dr. J's game is remembered in the modern time. We're still gonna, if somebody has to watch the YouTube highlights and say like, oh no, Dr. J would have only, he only would have gotten a little bit, lost a little bit by Giannis. He still could have scored. Like, but again, Giannis is great defensively as well too. Like, Jordan is, again, we're getting crazy here. But like, does Jordan want to play Giannis in one-on-one? Again, who wants to play Giannis in one-on-one? Maybe Hakeem. Hakeem's the only guy ever that maybe wants to actually like battle Giannis in one-on-one. And it's a different style of game as well, too. You do have the sort of in the post, slower footwork versus, not slower footwork, but, just more methodical, around the basket, but still, out to the 17-foot type stuff. And then, Giannis more just like attacking downhill with the dribble and stuff, pause. But, or maybe Malone as well, too. Again, sort of prime Moses Malone would have been a factor, but that's a center as well. Again, like Giannis is a center. Like if it's like, okay, Dr. J is getting cooked by, I guess we already made the Shaq comparison, or Garnett or anybody. But, again, there is a level of player, I guess, that it would, obviously the matchup would be even there at some point. But again, it's not the same tier of the all-time greatness as well, too. So it kind of maybe, works itself out a little bit. But, either way, just stay tuned. Obviously, all summer we have the classic games on at our own background. It is what it is. So we're doing our best to, keep watching here and, see what events of the modern NBA inspire us to go back and watch some games. Because I guess we went back and watched the classic 2012 Heat game. I was going to say, we just watched the classic Heat game for some reason. But it was 2012 LeBron Heat game. So, not venturing too far back there. Pause, but... for this one, for the Philly dealings for tonight, I did feel like a Dr. J, Moses Malone era one would have been good. I mean, obviously the Iverson era was fun. Iguodala, I mean, we can find some fun games. I mean, it's not like, we have to go there and sit through the team and root for the team. We're just watching the games on YouTube. So, we can still find some fun Iguodala matchups from, the Philly era from back then. And then I guess you go into the process after that. So it has been a little bit of a, obviously a long road for them, getting their title. Are they kind of now the next major basketball city besides New York? Because again, Iverson got to and they would be like New York as well too, because they were in the finals at that same time. Where, was it back-to-back years even? Where Latrell Sprewell and, I guess Latrell Sprewell, you can't really call him New York's Iverson. But I guess maybe he would like to think that, that's the case in some points. Hey, yo, Chad, I might have to just look up the basketball reference stuff on a different thing here. Pause and see what is going on. Oh, nope, I should have known. This computer always locks up when we go live, Chad. So, this one's toast as well, too. I should just keep it on the page that we have it on. I guess maybe it is just basketball reference, but it is hilarious sometimes, like clockwork, how it just like, oh, nope, we're shutting down. We're slowing down. But hey, you know what? If it works for the rest, I mean, if it was slow the rest of the time, slower for the rest of the time, I guess we can't give it too much credit. Hey, what are we saying? We're just ranting even more now. We're really getting in the weeds at this point. Pause. But what am I even looking up at this point? What were we just saying, chat? Hey, yo, something about Iguodala. What were we there? Iguodala. Are the aliens invading, chat? Hey, yo, do we need him to hit a jumper? What's going on? Is it Independence Day? I guess Iguodala and Independence Day. Is Iguodala a little Will Smith vibes, chat? I don't know. Could Will Smith play Iguodala in a biopic? Hey, yo, is there like an Independence Day Iguodala biopic, chat? I don't know what type of plot this is, but is there something like that where it's like, is it like a comedy where like it starts with the clip. Kellerman's like, if the aliens attack, I want Iguodala, and then Iguodala like slips into like a portal, and it's like, whoa, and then he goes into some type of Space Jam situation. I don't know, but or maybe it's like a again like a darker, more intimidating, like I guess like War of the Worlds. Hey, Iguodala's got to lead lead Golden State across he's got to lead the Warriors team across the nation. I guess he's not like playing right now as well either, but obviously back in the day. But either way, I guess what again, I don't remember exactly what we were looking up there for the Philly team as well. Iverson, Philly, Spreewell, they went. Oh, I guess the point, either way, the point was, they were both at least returned to the finals kind of similarly. And I guess, we can look up anyways when the last time they won was. Because it would have been the 80s there. Obviously, again, nobody else won in the 90s. So they're venturing on a similar amount of seasons here. We're looking at 82-83 was the last time that Philly won a title. So the last New York title before, what happened this last season, Chet? Hey, I don't really remember. Did they play the finals yet? But hey, imagine, Chet. Hey, we need it to be like a memento situation, like where we wake up and we're just like, oh, they didn't even play the finals. Oh, nothing ever happened. But 72. So I guess it was a full 10 years after New York the New York Knicks won their title that Philly did win theirs, because the last New York title was 72-73, and then literally, like we said, Philly was 82-83. So they would have to lose another 10 years for them to get to, the same spot that New York is at right now, which, I guess with the point of the Jaylen Brown trade is hopefully to, up the timeline as well. Hey, looking at the stat leaders this year, I didn't realize Donovan Clingan led the league in total rebounds. Hey, the lowest since Dwight Howard in 11-12. Was that a lockout season in 11-12, or was that 10-11? I don't remember. Oh, 50 points for Durant. That might have been a lockout season there. So Clingan led the league in total rebounds with less than 900 rebounds this year. Chat, what's happened to rebounds? Hey, Mutombo in the lockout season 610. Wait, let me sort this out real quick. Is this an important development for the league? I guess Jokic, the least amount of assists that anybody's ever had for a leader. What does that mean, chat? What does that mean? Oh, we can't sort this out here. Hey, has anybody else been under 900 in a non-lockout season? We got an L Faust. I'm gonna guess Lucas Faust. Maybe I've been on the page, seen the name, and just am remembering subconsciously. But let me see here. Luke Faust. Can we get a confirmation on what this name is here? Larry. Oh, I was wrong, chat. Hey, Larry Faust had 880 rebounds in 1951-1952. Was the last time. Hey, Chamberlain, 2,000 rebounds here. I mean, almost 2,000 rebounds. Even Elvin Hayes, 1,400. What happened to rebounds, chat? Hey, we're consistently 1,000 rebounds every year. And then, like we said, Howard in the lockouts. And then Omir Asik. I obviously remember him, but obviously, but 956 rebounds in 12-13. And then Gobert had a couple 900 rebound seasons. Sabonis with 900 last year. Sabonis with a low 1100s. And then Zubats with 1010 last year. Or 2 years ago. And then Clingan at 892. Hey, so shout out. I could see, obviously, Clingan leading the league in rebounds a lot. He could be a, like, do we say Dwight Howard type? I don't know if that's the comparison there. Maybe like Andre Drummond type is the better lane. But it still seems like a low number there, I guess. For just a quick sidebar, we'll investigate, chat. Stay tuned. The next Rem and Sam pod. What happened to rebounds? Hey, I guess an investigation. It's going to be like a plain English episode. Hey, the rebounding. Well, I guess we can't do the voice chat. It is what it is. But shout out. We'll get AI Derek Thompson to host the What Happened to Rebound voice. Hey, I guess that'd be a bit of a trip, I guess, because I feel like probably would be something that he's probably spoke out against on his pod. But what are we saying for Philly winning the title? Yeah, it was 82. And just back to Philly. Pause. 82-83 for them there. So again, they are, like we're saying, the major market team. Like the Lakers, the Celtics have obviously won recently as well with Jaylen Brown, and then chat. Speaking. I don't know what just happened to this computer. At least it didn't happen to this one. I hopefully didn't just jinx it. as well. Oh, okay, we're back. Hey, it must be the basketball reference is just like getting infected tonight. I don't know what's going on. Maybe we need Iguodala to save the basketball reference. I don't know. Let's just go to Iguodala's page real quick and just maybe it'll just like cure the virus. I don't know. Let's just see, chat. Hey, do we have time to rush over to Andre Ingram? Who is this? No, Andre Iguodala. And then maybe the computer will just run smooth now. Hey, it's like Iggy, no, oh, he hit the shot to save the aliens. We gotta get out of here. But oh nope, chat, it made it worse. It won't even go to that page. Hey, they're really, really, worn off over here to see what's going on. A12 is a nickname for him. Dollar Bills? Does anybody remember Iguodala being called Dollar Bills? Hey, because actually, as I say his name, that is a good nickname. Hey, how do we not call him Dollar Bills even more? Is Iguodala a rapper and we don't know about it? Hey, but okay, computer running smoothly so far. Oh, nope, page frozen. Hey, we are back to normal here, even on the second screen. But either way, I guess obviously we got to give respect to Philly or give respect to Iggy because I was thinking about just Jaylen Brown and getting a player that good. Is he the best forward that Philly has had since Dr. J? Obviously, again, the name that you would throw out there to combat that would be Iguodala. But with all due respect to Iguodala, I think Jaylen Brown is a little bit of a step up from what he was. Again, Iguodala defensively is like a really, really terrifying player. Again, like one of those, like his defense alone is a legit weapon. Again, in a way that it's like, hey, throw him in any era. And he's a perfect example. Like, you don't even need to know how to, shoot threes if your skill set's obviously so high in another way. And his defense was like that. Pause. Where, I feel like we just have to throw that in there, But his defensive side of the game was like that. Where it would be, terrifying enough to hold its own in terms of his value on the court at times. But then he was super clutch as well too, and could hit threes when you really, really needed him to, but wasn't generating offense on his own. And again, is there like an advanced stats that say that Iguodala is like so much better of an all-time player than Jaylen Brown? Like I've always kind of wondered, like it doesn't really make sense to Jaylen Brown advanced stats, and it is kind of year to year as well. Can kind of balance out if you are like a 30-point per game scorer or later in your career. But, again, in terms of like the advanced stats on-off production, that obviously goes into a little bit of a different category in terms of just, the raw stats. Pause that can be, up there in the league, even if you're not great in the individual one of those sometimes. But because, again, like he started off like 6 points a game, 14, 13, 20, 24. So, 24, it was pretty good. But the first contract there anyways, the first handful of seasons, he was again, a little bit lower just in terms of the overall numbers and what they would become. And if he would have been, a 20-point, 48%, 38%, player over the course of his career, again, obviously he's a really good player, but consistently, and we're looking at his resume here, only 2 All-NBA appearances. You say only 2, but that's still obviously, really good. But he's consistently been right on that borderline for being in the All-NBA discussion. And really the only reason that he hasn't been is because of Tatum. And, again, maybe, and, classic. Tune into the Rem and Sam pod. Like, we will definitely, zag a little bit sometimes when it seems like everybody is just going one way with it. Pause. But, again, for not even, and actually, the trade is a good trade. Like, everybody views the trade as a good trade, obviously. I don't think anybody, well, I guess, obviously, there's always going to be some people. But for the most part, I don't think it's a zag to be like, oh, this is actually a good trade and Jaylen Brown's a good player. Again, the consensus here is that Philly made the right move. But there is like that underground sort of vibe of like, oh, have you seen the advanced stats? Have you seen what they've done? Or, maybe, Brad Stevens maybe didn't just, he didn't just trade points per game. Like he made everybody on the team better because they got rid of Jaylen Brown. And it's like, okay, I don't know if, like I get that maybe there's like advanced analytics stuff that you can look at on paper, but also you can watch the games as well too. And, Jaylen Brown has been in the playoffs every year, with the Celtics here, was the most important person in the run that they had to the finals. And that is the part, obviously, that, a lot of people can't get out of their mind, including myself, is that the best version of Jaylen Brown can literally be a title-winning impact guy. And, again, what was that for the series where they didn't need Tatum to be that elite carry-all type guy. He ended up turning into more of a, really, really productive, still obviously great, almost even came back and captured finals MVP as well too. You can't forget that. But still, was more point forward-esque running the offense in some ways. And again, that's obviously what was partly so impressive about it as well too. But again, regardless, I think it has been a little I don't want to say disrespect, but a little under respect for Jaylen Brown the last couple of years. Maybe just like 2% extra. Nah, that's not enough. But, just a little bit extra credit given to Tatum where maybe it should have been given to Jaylen Brown. And, again, we're going to do percentage for the percentage credits here. But either way, again, Tatum has consistently been the first team All-NBA guy, and their success is pretty intertwined. Like, is it a Jordan Pippen situation? Like, are we sitting here saying retroactively, like, Pippen's as good as Jordan? I guess there is, like, some people that might make that argument. And again, if you're going, like, the one-on-one game as well, too, Pippen's defense, he's obviously going to be able to hold his own. Jordan's going to get him there. He's going to be able to score enough points. It is what it is. But, either way, there is going to be a fun argument. And Pippen did have that Jaylen Brown-esque season where, Jaylen Brown had that Pippen-esque season as well, too, where we saw him really lead the team successfully without the lead guy. And I guess it would have been interesting, if Pippen had, like, gone on Twitch and then just, like, demanded a trade in the mid-90s when Jordan got back. And then if just, like, Pippen's on the Knicks at that point, then, who would they have traded him for? Like, I don't know if they would have had Sprewell back then. Or, like, John Starks and Charles Oakley for, Scottie Pippen. And I guess maybe Oakley was on the Bulls at one point, but he was on the Bulls before as well. Let's see. Sprewell, he might have been on, like, the Warriors at that time or somewhere sooner. Or somewhere else. I don't know exactly the timeline for his entire career here. Okay, he was drafted in 93, so he could have been in play for that type of move. Yeah, drafted by the Warriors in 92, 93, so he didn't get to New York till 98, 99. I guess is his first season there. But maybe he does. Maybe they just trade Pippen to the Warriors. I guess I don't know if it has to be for Sprewell. I guess 24th overall pick in the 92 draft. It's not even like hyped up going in. I guess like Vince Carter. Maybe he could have. I don't know, mid 90s who he gets traded for at that point. Penny. They trade him to Penny. Maybe that is the trade. I don't know. I don't know if they get him for Shaq, but maybe it's like Shaq and Pippen with Jordan and Penny. Hey, I mean that's a fun alternate history. Jordan and Penny Hardaway. I mean, they could still at least get 2 of those 3 titles anyways. And, Shaq and Pippen might be able to get one. Like, that's obviously pretty talented. I don't know if Maxi's the Shaq in this situation for Philly, if the comparison is still making sense. But, again, I don't know what the advanced analytics say that Paul George is going to be here for the next couple of years as well too, which is also the part that you have to remember a little bit with all due respect to Paul George. And I think Paul George is still like a really, really productive player. Like he was a consistent 3-point shooter to some degree there at the end of the chat. We're gonna go third screen for the basketball reference and just see if we can get it to work to some degree here. I assume this will be fine. I guess don't want to jinx it too bad. But let's see. Paul George last year was, still 39% from 3. Again, 34% from the field. So what are the advanced analytics there? Is that advanced? See, the problem is that's not an advanced analytic. That's a basic stat. He was 49% from 3 in the playoffs, though, last year. So, again, he was really, really cooking. And 45% from the field, that brought him to 16 points a game. So, again, like he's a very, very productive role player. And if you get Tatum back, you think about what you did last year and you're like, oh, I guess if we have Tatum in the Jaylen Brown role and then Paul George is in the, whatever other random wing role you have there, like that's basically the upgrade that you're thinking of if you're Boston. But, again, that's not better necessarily than Tatum and Brown was, as well as a teammate, situation in terms of competing for the title. Now, of course, the thing that you do benefit from is, like we're saying, nobody in the East is maybe like set definitively better. I mean, New York is the champion, and we do have to give them their credit as well too, even though again we will be hesitant to do so as San Antonio fans. But for the East, like there still is the path that Tatum, and again Tatum was injured last year, so you could still make the case that he is the best player in the East, and that is going to be the thing that Boston has over even Philly in this deal that is saving him. But again, it's not Brad Stevens is saving. It's I guess Paul George could score like 24 a game and still save the thing. But that is the thing that is saving him is they have Tatum. I mean, it's basically the case that we made for Minnesota when they traded for Gobert. Was like, okay, yes, this is like not a great trade, but you do have Edwards, so Edwards could just save you regardless, I guess. And again, that doesn't defend the trade, but that's just still the reality of the team, I guess. And Gobert is a good player, so maybe they can like just outlast sort of the negative impact of the picks and the stuff like that. If and in some ways they almost did do that as well too. The problem is they made one more other move and they traded Towns. But for Boston, for George, again, still can be really, really impactful, but I don't think he moves their upside, obviously, for what they would have been for a title team here. And you do, I guess, get the future first, but you only get 2 of them. So it's a little in like the Kawhi DeRozan-esque trade where you're kind of just downgrading a player. And again, I hate to say it that directly as well, but the Spurs didn't get back a ton of future assets in that deal. So, again, I say at least Boston got 2 because that's the mindset I'm looking at. Like, I don't even think the Spurs. No, we did get 1, and I guess I gotta be more respectful as well too because now that I'm thinking about it, I think that pick ended up being Keldon Johnson. So, obviously 6th man of the year this past year and super impactful for our Western Conference championship run that we went on. We're like the Colts now. We start hanging banners when we win the conference. But here, let me double check. Was that Keldon Johnson pick from the Kawhi Leonard trade? It was. So it was DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl for Danny Green. DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl went first for Danny Green and Kawhi. So again, maybe the Paul George to Jaylen Brown thing is a little bit closer in terms of DeRozan and Kawhi because again, Kawhi at that time we kind of knew had a little bit of that title potential. Like he had already won the Finals MVP, obviously, but it was as more in a role player type role. But then afterwards had ascended to that guy. So it was like we were kind of doing the math of, well, he can be this guy and probably win a Finals MVP at some point. And then he did obviously just ended up doing it that very next season there with the Raptors. But, again, just the fact that you're bringing in the potential all-time throw a team on the back playoff run guy, like that just changes the dynamic of the trade in general. So again, I guess Jaylen Brown, if we're doing the Kawhi comparison, he has had the Finals MVP, and he did become that number 1 guy. So maybe we do need to give him the sort of 5. So he would have been 27 his year in Toronto. Kawhi was 27 the year he was on the Raptors. So again, there maybe is a little bit more on the timeline there, but still a little bit more of the upside as well too. So it just makes the the discrepancy there again, with all due respect to DeRozan, who in some ways is I guess you don't say a little bit more of a number 1 because Paul George has, I think, been at higher heights in his career than DeRozan has. But DeRozan's been a very, very successful number 1 as well too. So you can't like say that it's been that he's not nothing like in terms of a lead guy. But again, this is obviously just in that type of move where if you're not going to be building out the future stuff, then you're basically talking yourself into cap space and team vibes at that point. It's just like the vibes on the team were so bad that it's just better off to move on and just get a productive player back. And again, not to reduce Paul George to just that as well, too. We have to be respectful to both sides of the trade. Like, Paul George is still very, very good. It's just, if you're in a vacuum, which player would you rather have? Jaylen Brown. So the whole point of trades is, can you get sort of, in the NBA sense of things, can you get equivalent team building value for each set of assets going back? And did I say that word clear enough? For each set of assets going back. I don't think we keep repeating it. Probably have to make it better. But either way, for, obviously, like we're saying, that's the whole point of the trade, is you do want to try to make that as even as possible. Not just, we have to swap this. Hey, yo. It's basically, and again, I'm not saying that this is what the situation with Jaylen Brown is, but they're viewing it as like, it's the hot potato situation. It's like we just have to get this to another team, basically. And hey, obviously, because what I heard about the report was basically like they offered, like they made an offer to Philly. Philly was like, no, like we would rather do this, and Boston was like, okay, like we'll just do that then. So again, maybe Brad Stevens just really, really loves Paul George as well too. The only other side of it that you could possibly talk yourself into with Boston as well is the fact that literally Paul George has been traded for pause. But every trade that has been that Paul George has been traded for, it's been better for the team that's traded Paul George away, if that makes sense. I don't know if we have to look up the list of trades, but he went from Indiana to OKC. I guess OKC we'll get to that, but Indiana with Oladipo and those guys, like it didn't work out better for them per se, but I guess the trade in general worked out a little bit better than we thought. And then when he goes from OKC to the Clippers, obviously OKC wins a title off of that trade. And then he goes from the Clippers to I guess did he get traded from the Clippers to Philly? I guess that one maybe is not like, that one didn't like save the franchise in a sense. So maybe we need to, pump the brakes on that one a little bit. But there have been a couple of major trades in there and a lot of pieces thrown around. I have even seen the first team all traded for Paul George. Let's see if we can find that. The all PG-13 trade team is maybe the way to look this up here. Yeah, the incredible return for every team that has ever received trading for Paul George. So maybe Brad Stevens is just looking at it in some sort of cosmic sense like this, where he's just like, well, if we get Paul George, that means we can trade Paul George for some type of franchise thing. This was his way to copy what Sam Presti did. He like studied Sam Presti's entire model. He's like, okay, what did Sam Presti do to start to build this title team? He's like, okay, well, he had Paul George and then he traded him away. So he's like, well, let me trade for Paul George and then maybe we'll trade him away later. Hey, yo, so that was the only other thing I could think about was like maybe legitimately they think they could just get another crazy return for Paul George still. And again, just not whatever, we know what Paul George's skill set is, but I'm just saying like his, whatever his skill set is just as a player, like that 3-and-D impact, but we've seen him take it to, near MVP levels as well too. And whatever his analytics still say, hey, I guess I don't have, again, either guy's, advanced stats memorized at the top, but there is obviously still a league-wide value that PG does have. And, like, I don't want to even be disrespectful in terms of, like, the posts where it's like, oh, can we put Boston in it? I honestly think Boston might have knocked themselves out into a different tier as well. I don't want to be too dramatic because, again, I also want to respect Tatum as well, too, as a lead guy. And Tatum could be, if he's healthy, back playing just from a regular season standpoint, I think he could be, hot take. Tatum could get you to 50, 52, 55, 57. Hey, like Tatum's going to be a 50-plus win guy if the team around him is at least this good. And it is good enough to be a 50-win team in the regular season for sure. Again, we saw it be nearly that last year as well, too. If not that, I don't remember exactly what they were at, but I'm assuming it was, pretty much there. But for the playoffs, Jaylen Brown is, maybe that's the separation as well, too. I don't know if we need to, like, rethink about what we're looking at for regular season analytics here. I guess let me pull it up. Oh, I guess the page is loading right now, so we'll just take advantage of it and see what is going on. But and I guess, you go the other way. Sometimes a guy has a crazy playoff run. It's been legends in the past, stories in the past, like, oh, then you overpay this guy based on one playoff run and now your team's screwed because you made, one overreaction move. I get that as well, too. Again, I'm sure there's examples all the way around, and having a body of work through the regular season is, again, a good thing to prove, obviously, what type of player you are more often than not. But maybe there is a, hot take, maybe there's a balance that is sort of between the two as well. I mean, I guess, the PER is not like always in the 20s, win shares per 48 and stuff like that. Again, you can kind of league rank that stuff out and see that he might not always be the highest. His value over replacement player 3.3 was, easily a career high for him this past season. Again, with taking on the extra importance for the team here. If we go for the playoffs, and I was seeing like people were like, oh, for his career, he's got a, a minus net rating. And I guess his plus minus is 0.7, so it's not minus. I guess it's not necessarily his net rating, but his box score plus minus I think is basically the same thing. But again, look, his box score plus minus in the playoffs for his career is 1.3. So again, it immediately takes a jump up. Going over the last couple was 2.6 in 21, 22. The finals run, 1.8 against 7 games last year, I guess, but still a 2.9 there as well. Was definitely had the highest usage percentage in his 7 games of anybody in the league as well. So, again, was definitely, taking advantage there as well. But, they even had Tatum back at that point. I guess, was Tatum in and out of some games, though? I don't remember exactly the whole Celtics playoff saga from this year. But, again, I don't know if, obviously, we can look at the advanced stats here and say that this is, a non-impactful player, because when I was seeing the graph as well too, one of the players that I saw, down lower on the list of career, like plus minus or net rating, or again, whatever I was seeing there, but it was like Russell Westbrook was another guy that's lower down on the list. It's like, okay, another classic, maybe there's some bad stats on his side of things where you're like, oh, or some skill set things, some play side things where it's like, oh, here's the 7 reasons why you wouldn't want to have Russell Westbrook on your basketball team. It's also just like throw on any Russell Westbrook highlight and you're immediately just like, actually, I think I want that guy on the team. Hey, like there is, again, there's the way that you can describe his game where it's like, oh, Russell Westbrook, he only chases stats. He kind of hogs the ball. Somehow he gets 10 assists, but he was like, he hogs the ball. He takes bad shots. He can't really shoot. I don't really know what his offensive game is. He doesn't shoot threes, just kind of barrels into the lane and, jumps over everybody. And once his athletic ability is gone, like, you can obviously, like anybody, describe their game negatively. But then you just throw on Russell Westbrook highlights and you're like, wait a second. This is one of the most electric guards that's ever played the game. His energy is igniting everybody in the entire building, every fan. And, obviously, I guess every guy's going to have their moments that you can pick and choose. But, time and time again was, super clutch player for Oklahoma City, made a finals with them as well too. So, again, not every stat correlation is a 1-for-1 for these guys. And, we're not talking obviously again about, with all due respect to Jaylen Brown, we're not talking about him versus Michael Jordan. We're not talking about him, versus all the other, great players we were talking about earlier. Dr. J. Hey, I guess we were kind of talking about him next to Dr. J, but not really like in terms of the legacy ranking, just in terms of, the personnel that the Sixers have had in there since Dr. J. Ayo. But, legacy-wise, we obviously that's not the argument there. The argument there is not, is Jaylen Brown on his way to having a better career than, John Havlicek or something like that. I don't know. But the argument is, right now, if Jaylen Brown is one of the 5 guys on the court at the end of a game in a finals situation, can you win the finals? And that question is yes, because we've seen it. And like literally in that final series, Jaylen Brown was voted the most valuable person in the entire series for both of the guys by everybody that watched the series. So, again, like it's like, and in the Eastern Conference Finals before that as well too. So again, it was just like, when Jaylen Brown was a championship level player, the Celtics were a championship level team. I guess do the advanced analytics say that he doesn't quite get to that level? Again, I don't, maybe, but that goes to, again, sort of the all-time legacy-ness of it, and the fact that some guys were just, again, that extra level of greatness every night more often than not. And I think, again, Jaylen Brown has been to whatever his ceiling is as well too. I guess I would say that respectfully, because I don't know what his ceiling is as a basketball player. That's for him to achieve as a personal journey there, I guess. But for whatever his upside is, it feels like he's basically from what he was drafted at, like this is how many versions of his career are better than this? Seems pretty. Seems like we're kind of in a one of the better side of the careers here for Jaylen Brown. But again, I don't, like I'm saying, just Boston is just, as a team right now, I think they're just, a slight, hot take, a slightly worse personnel team. The only saving thing would be if they just flip Paul George for something else. And maybe it's more picks down the line. Like that's the other side of, like, they only get first round picks back. It's like you are getting a better player back. So, maybe you're not going to get Paul George and 17 first round picks. I guess, well, the Clippers, I guess, didn't or the Clippers got Paul George. The Thunder didn't get Paul George and the picks, but they did, but not at the same time, I guess. Obviously it was the two separate trades there, but either way, you are obviously going to have to sacrifice a little bit there to get back George. But either way, they could still trade him for what, like 2 maybe? But would somebody trade 2 first-round picks for Paul George? I guess a good team that maybe thought they were not going to use those picks. Like, would the Rockets right now trade? And I guess maybe a team like, does Houston have a couple of swaps or something? Do they have a couple of picks laying around? I don't know. But if Houston trades a couple of firsts and then maybe like Tari East, and they just signed Tari East into a contract, so I don't think they would do that as well. Like, hey, do we have to pull up the Houston roster? I don't know. Something about Paul George and Houston seems interesting at this point. Like Atlanta, I don't know. Maybe I just have to go with my gut reaction here. That was the first team that popped into my mind when I just thought about like where could they flip him to, and that's a team that has a lot of picks as well. So maybe that's where they have a little bit of leeway. Would it be like all of a sudden we're just like getting like an old school Woj bomb? It's like Paul George got traded for Devin Booker. We're just like, what just happened? Like, how did Brad Stevens do this? Like, I was like, okay, well, if we knew that was gonna happen, I guess obviously we would have liked the trade a little bit better. But for just looking at the teams right off the bat, it would seem, I guess, Washington still making moves. Jaylen Brown, they add Jaylen Brown to the Washington mix over there, chat. Eastern Conference superpower, the Wizards. Maybe Jaylen, we did say Jaylen Brown, or I guess we were talking about Paul George, not Jaylen Brown, flipping him. Anyway, I think Philly is going to probably keep him around. Paul George to the Wizards, maybe. That does seem a little more realistic. Or to the Hornets as well, too. Maybe that's a good rule of thumb. It's like if the player that you trade for seems more likely to be on the Wizards or the Hornets than the other player, then maybe you shouldn't make the trade as well. Again, that's sort of a vague rule, and I guess it kind of changes depending on sort of what that team is at the time. It's been the Wizards for a while, but if it changes and it's not the Wizards, then it just applies to a different team. But still, if it's like this guy makes more sense on the tanking team than the other guy, then maybe you want the other guy. But for if they were to flip George to the Rockets for, I guess we were gonna look up their roster to see who the guy could be. Van Fleet. Again, I guess if he's healthy and you get Van Fleet, is that the Jaylen Brown trade? Van Fleet and 4 first-round picks. Just getting a lot of first-round picks, I guess people like that. So again, we have to balance the player pick situation. They're hopefully getting a decent player back, a decent AO. Now we're obviously criticizing Paul George too much. Like Jabari Smith, maybe that could be a move. That could be a move. I guess where sources are saying, chat, the only way that Brad Stevens saves this, and I guess, do they have their picks here as well? Let's see. Okay, they do have a couple in 27, so they may need to want to capitalize now? Or is this the same pick multiple times? Or do they have both? I guess, do the Rockets have their own swap? How does that work? Did they trade back for their own swap? They might have. I guess because, they have Phoenix. They have Phoenix's pick, and they have Brooklyn's swap, but then they also have Brooklyn has their swap. I don't know. So maybe they just have the Phoenix pick. But if you traded Boston, Phoenix's 2027 pick, and the 2029 pick's not bad as well too. So if somehow you got both Phoenix picks from Houston and Jabari for Paul, they wouldn't do that. Unless again, like Brad Stevens just, there's just some kind of league inner workings that we don't know about. But maybe in the Mavs, 2 most favorable of the Brooklyn or Dallas for 2029? What is this? So they could go like a Dallas 2029 pick and then something in 2027. Maybe, I guess, either way they have 2 picks still in 2029, or just 1, I guess. I don't know. Being a little confusing there with the Spo track, but Jabari would be an interesting get because obviously a little roster reset there gets you a little bit of a individually, splits up some of the salary stuff as well too. You take back maybe like Finney Smith's contract, and then I don't know, Steven Adams still pretty productive as well too. I guess I don't know if that quite gets you to where they need. After maybe Marcus Smart doesn't work out, you kind of throw Marcus Smart into that trade as well too, and that would be good. Marcus Smart back to Boston. That's how it kind of works in the trade market. It's like, Gary Payton signs with Portland, and then whoop, they just trade him right back to Golden State. But Yeah, it's like, okay, Brad Stevens is definitely, taking Presti's path a little too literally here by trading for Paul George first. I think the goal is maybe to trade for the equivalent of Paul George then and then flip that. The equivalent is really to try to trade him to a team that needs to pay for another player as a byproduct of trading for that player, if that makes sense. Because again, that's how we all know where the Clippers stumbled into that OKC situation was they were basically trading for two players, just one of them was a free agent. You're like, okay, if we draw in the one free agent, then we're guaranteed the other. Let's just throw in a couple extra assets here to make sure that doesn't happen. I think, well, I guess I don't know the official reporting. The official reporting might be that Shea is the throw-in, technically, where it's like, and can we get, not the throw-in, but sort of like the last piece, where it's like, and can we get Shea? And they're like, oh, I guess so. It's like, hey, that might be a little bit of a wise tale from the Thunder side. I don't know what, where's the recorder? They're like, okay, they're like, we got all the first, and then somebody in the room shouted Shea, and then somebody was like, yes, we'll do it after a long pause, like Costner in Draft Day or something like that. Maybe they just watched the plot of Draft Day. And they're like, that's actually what happened, and we were just trading for Shea. It is kind of what happened. Hey, he calls Ballmer. He's like, I want my picks back, but. Hey, Chad, I just got chills from thinking about that. I'm gonna have to see if Draft Day is streaming anywhere. The month did just change. Did somebody scoop up Draft Day for the month? Hey, Chad. Speaking of, and obviously, speaking of Chadwick earlier as well too. Rest in peace to Chadwick and Jennifer Gardner. Is this like the best Jennifer Gardner movie she's ever been in? Oh yeah, Daredevil. Hey, hot, what classic piece of cinema. Like 13 going on 30 is classic as well too. But I mean, hey, it's no Draft Day, chat. What are we doing over here? If we can only put one Jennifer Gardner in the Hall of Fame movie in the Hall of Fame, which character is her Hall of Fame bust? Pause gonna be it's gonna be Draft Day. It is what it is. But this did just make me think, and I'm sure somebody else has already proposed this idea in the past. So, again, is nothing original. Maybe it'll be perfect for what I'm about, maybe it'll be a perfect thing for what I'm about to propose here. But streaming service draft. Every month the properties go into, I guess, which property? The Remington pod. Somehow we have to acquire this property. I don't know what this is. But every month we're the ones that host the streaming service draft. So we have like Netflix, HBO, Peacock, Paramount, Disney Plus, Hulu. I guess Disney Plus, Hulu. Disney would just represent themselves, I guess. So Disney, Paramount, I guess, Paramount, Warner. Hey, well, chat, there's going to be a lot fewer companies at this meeting now. Hey, what's going on in the business world? But what I was saying, the few that are left, they'll be at the Rem and Sam streaming service draft. And then we'll pick up all the titles. I guess, Tubi, obviously. We want Tubi there. First pick. Tubi gets the first pick every month. Just every month, Tubi gets the first pick, and every month it's training day. It is what it is. But I guess did we even speak on the Philly side of things as well too for the Jaylen Brown side of the deal? Because again, obviously we could sit here and keep criticizing. The Celtics part is obviously the confusing part, so that's the part that is gonna just take the most time to think through. We just have to sit here and keep going in circles and just go, why did they do the trade? It's like a Twilight Zone episode. Like what happened? What happened? There's no way they traded him. What happened? But again, the Philly thing is easy. Pause. And again, that's why that's where you just know that trades are bad, trades are definitive, at least instantly, in terms of what the results are as well. Did we already have a summer league game? What happened here? 88-87 Spurs versus Heat. Is this active, chat? The California Classic's going right now. We're already in it. Terrace Reed 7 rebounds. The NBA we're NBA journalists and we don't even know our team's playing a summer league game. I guess maybe this shows I'm an NBA journalist, that we even care. The fact, do we just get a journalism badge if we care about Summer League? They're like, he has interest. Yes, give him a badge. Obviously it's not that, but it's not down bad like that. Oh, we have RJ Davis though. Okay, not bad. 15 points tonight too. So pulling up Jacoby Gillespie. We did like him in the draft. I guess 3 for 17. So, we're doing okay there. Somebody's giving him the opportunities though. We do, come to the San Antonio, pause, show up to the San Antonio Summer League team and take 17 shots. I don't care. Why not? Taurus Reed 3 for 10, not the most encouraging, but 7 rebounds, running around trying, I guess, Emmanuel Miller, Malik Brown. Let's go, Chad. No Quintans tonight, unfortunately. Oh, Carter Bryant's on the Summer League team as well. I guess we can't send Harper. Unfortunately, Harper's too good, Chad. Hey, yo, he played him. Not unfortunately, we want him to be good, but for our random summer league competitiveness, we want to see Dylan Harper out there for like a game and a half. Hey, yo, I do always like that where it's like, oh, Dylan Harper is gonna be on the summer league team this year, and then he just plays a quarter, and they're like, oh, I forgot how good he was. We can't play this guy at all. And just like, actually, he never is gonna play ever again. It's like, oh, that was a dupe. Hey, yo, I guess what did they were they trying to get us to buy a ticket or something? They wouldn't possibly do that, but. I guess he's not even going to be on the team this year. I'm trying to think, did we have who was like the second round pick last year that we could have? Hey, yeah, we need another guard or something from a summer league standpoint. I guess I don't know some of the other names as well, but it'll be fun. I guess to see what is going on here. And I was gonna say, where is all Miami's fun? What happened to Cat? What happened to all these guys they just had? I forgot they just traded him for Giannis. So Miami's summer league team is cooked as well. But look, I mean, Jameer Young right away, 21 points, 8 for 13 from the field. I guess we are going to need to keep an eye on him. Trevor Keels as well. So, and then I guess Conwell was one of their picks this year. They did get Golden out of Michigan as well. So, again, somebody from this team is going to have to play. And Trey Donaldson. Oh, I guess he didn't have the 18. He had, 1 for 3 tonight. Hey, yo, Chad, again, let's go. A little summer league corner here. Yeah, I guess July 3rd. This was active. It is what it is. Where to watch? ESPN Prime Video? This was on ESPN. I guess, we between having a World Cup game on and having an old Doctor, I guess we're better off running classic Sixers game. I don't even feel bad. Hey, yo, it is what it is. We can watch these Terrace Reed 3-bucket highlights later and, be fine. I guess it is what it is. But yeah, I guess the point is we were just trying to say that Philly is obviously way better off for this Jaylen Brown trade. It is what it is, but they're now like the most fun team of the East in some ways. I guess, again, the New York team running it back. And, Giannis just being in Miami, again, just having maybe hopefully Giannis back again is going to be fun as well, too. The Wizards are obviously interesting, but the Phylon draft pick, Edgecombe getting better, and now bringing in Jaylen Brown. Like, again, the one thing that saves Boston, again, literally is Tatum. Where if you're going, Tatum and Paul George versus Maxey and Jaylen Brown as a duo, like, you would maybe lean Boston because there is just that perception that Tatum is just, would be the best guy of that group. But, Maxey and Brown might be a better duo at that point. Maybe there is an individual one-on-one thing with those guys as well, too. Again, both them being forwards and Maxey being a point guard there. But Maxey was, 27 points a game last year. You're going to bring in Jaylen Brown, who's consistently been 24 over the last couple, so at least that as well. And then Edgecombe hopefully takes a step forward. And then they drafted Phylon as well, who can kind of play with all those guys. I guess the lineup does get a little undersized, but maybe it even makes more sense as well. Like now you have Phylon as just like hopefully I'm saying his name right as well too. But they drafted the gentleman out of Alabama, and he is a guy that can be like that spark plug off the bench for him. Obviously, they could have just had Jared McCain as well too. I don't know why they had to trade him, but like he can still play that role and be effective there. If they have to play Jaylen Brown at the 4, or like I guess Edgecombe defensively at the 4, they may be able to do that against some lineups, but they'll probably want to add a little bit more front court depth there as well too. We'll have to go look at that. But I just like the Maxey Jaylen Brown combo is just a better combo than it makes more sense because it felt like Paul George and Embiid were like their own team almost. And it's like, okay, you have these two teams. You have Embiid and Paul George of this what should have been team, and now you have this like what could it be? I guess not what could have been, but what could be team with Maxey and Edgecombe. And now it seems like, again, like it's like, okay, we have a team at this point. We have Maxey, Edgecombe, and Jaylen Brown. Like that's a core that can be together here for the next couple of years. And, again, Embiid can definitely play in that as well too. And, obviously, like we said, we're, hot take, we're pro everybody here on the REMINGTOM pod for NBA players, I guess. But, because we barely ever get on here and be like, actually, we're anti, whoever. I guess, do we just throw out an example name? Hey, who do we call out? I guess we're anti Scalabrini. I don't know, but maybe we are now because we're challenging him to a duel. Hey, yo. But what are we saying for? We're hot take again. We're pro Embiid on this pod. But you still have to acknowledge that there is some team building dynamics that you do have to work around with where Embiid is at in this stage of his career and with what his contract does to your roster as well too. And again, I think Jaylen Brown just helps you balance those things out in a different way that Paul George does, even if it's just mentally for the team. But he's also just a better player right now than Paul George as well. So, is there the two versions of this in the timeline where the fit is not good between him and Maxey, but I don't even see it as not saying I don't see the fit. I'm saying I don't see the version where it doesn't work at least okay. Like I don't see this being a tragedy. Like, hey, like is this can't be worse than Garland and Mitchell in Cleveland. Like, again, like maybe Cleveland's roster is a little better, but still Edgecombe and I don't know, it's at least close. And if Embiid's healthy, like it's really not at that point. But again, just from a regular season standpoint, they were 50 plus wins, 60 wins 2 years ago. Garland and Mitchell were. So, can Philly be a 60 win regular season team this year? That might be a bit, screw it. I'll say it now. I don't even care. We can pretend like we didn't say it in 4 months when the NBA season starts. Who cares? Philly's going to win 60 games this year. They might not quite have the depth for it yet at this point. And again, the offseason's just starting here as well too, or we're in the middle of the moves happening. So okay, they got Jaylen Brown, Dean Wade, they got Simons, Chad. They got Simons. I mean, again, maybe they're just listening to the Rem and Sam pod. They're like, okay, they're really going for Rem and Sam and pod team of the year, I guess is what they're trying to get here. I guess Rem and Sam pod team of the year really is just whatever team Anthony Simons is playing on. I didn't even realize it till right now, but he kind of has been the LeBron of our pod here for a while. It really, unintentionally, but how the Lakers fans were like leaving notes about like, oh, we can't thank you for allowing us to be in the Lakers fan base. We're really proud of the run that we had, but we're going to have to go join this team with LeBron. Like that's what we have to do with team of the year with Anthony Simons. Like every time he gets traded, we're like, oh, sorry. I guess, well, yeah, Boston would have been in Sam's team of the year contention. I guess, but they didn't have Tatum last year. So that's why they brought in Simons. They were like, we have to get Sam has to keep watching this team. They're like, we know Tatum's hurt, so we're going to have to bring in Simons. And, who was on the top of the watch list there. I guess they couldn't get LaMelo. But, yeah, Jaylen Brown. Again, Dean Wade. I've never even really liked Dean Wade on Cleveland, but he was kind of, okay for him in the playoffs, and they were falling apart as well, too. I don't know, there was something about, like, Cleveland falling apart. It's like, Dean Wade's trying. So, like, there's, there's something, Dean Wade, I don't know, you can be your ninth man. That's fine. Drummond, I like Drummond's rebounding. Shout out. He's been an effort guy there for the past couple of years. Again, I don't know if you'd want him to necessarily be your main back. Oh, that's right. They have Bona. Pause. It is what it is. But, yeah, they got him as well, too. Barlow. Again, maybe they just need a little more umph off the bench. So that's where Simons could really, if that were to work. Obviously, that's a definite swing there as well, too. They're in just all upside mode at this point after getting Jaylen Brown. But I guess Dean Wade is kind of your 4. Honestly, yeah, like Dean Wade could be your 4. Again, Dean Wade's your 4 if Embiid's dropping 30 a game. Like, that obviously is good. If Embiid's 22 a game and can't move defensively, then yes, Dean Wade signing is probably not going to be all that great. Sign him to a 4-year deal seems a little excessive, honestly. They can't just give him like 2-11 each and just be like, you know what, we'll see what happens here. But, they have signed longer than Jaylen Brown. They're like, we really have to lock down Dean Wade. Oh, hopefully it's a team option on that 29-30 year there. But so what were we saying? The starting lineup is, I guess, Embiid, Wade, Jaylen Brown, Edgecombe, and Maxey is your 5, and then you have Phylon and here we go. You have some cap holds down here as well too. Oh, they also have Hood Schifino. I didn't realize Hood Schifino was on this team. Oh, Quentin Grimes left, though, for the Lakers. And Beauchamp, they got to bring Beauchamp back. Chad, they've got a gold mine here. Trendon Wofford, Margin Beauchamp, and Hood Schifino. I think Wofford's gone as well, so they might not be able to bring him back. But, I mean, come on, if he wants to win a title, and they still have the cap hold on Oubre. So Oubre is probably going to end up going somewhere else now. At this point, now that they have Jaylen Brown. That just seems like kind of how the NBA math of that would work. Rupert is kind of a Team Rem and Sam guy as well, too. So we can't, we haven't given up on Rupert yet. 22 years old, come on. Somebody got to give Rupert a shot. But the Rupert repair. Hey, yo, a little YouTube series on the Rem and Sam Plus that we're working on. Outside of that'll be the first property drafted, I guess, in the streaming service draft. First up off the board, Netflix selects the Repair, starring Ryan Repair in his journey to, getting a fully guaranteed NBA contract. I guess we got to work out the details at this point, but. Yeah, I think Philly again might be our favorite team in the East now. I don't know if it's the best team in the East. I still think that New York has the best five in the East. So maybe that's where the Boston trade is well too. It's like, is your five better than New York's now? No. Like, I don't know how Paul George, even from a matchup standpoint, gets you closer. Like, that would have been another case as well. It's like, okay, maybe not individually better than Jaylen Brown, but you could make the case that he makes he skews the matchup of your team. It's like, Jaylen Brown is still kind of the same versatility that Paul George has, outside of, again, Paul George is maybe over the course of his career a little bit more skilled 3-point shooter. But, again, Jaylen Brown's better at getting a bucket on his own at this point. Like, you're going to have to actually you're going to have to, Paul George, if I can say this respectfully, Paul George is not going to get open the same way that Jaylen Brown is. Like, it's a receiver with a really, really good quarterback. Like, if Paul George has the quarterback and has the offense, like, he can put up, really, really good numbers at this point. Hey, I guess I'm calling him a system player. Not that. I just think he needs a little more supporting cast around him to generate points. And he's a connective guy, I guess is what I'm saying. Versus Jaylen Brown is like an actual generator. Hey, yo, a generator versus a connector. I don't know if these are pauses or if we're, making new in positionless basketball. These are just new terms, because that's really what we need now for positionless basketball as well, too, right? It's not about if this guy's a point guard or if this guy's. It's like playmaker, generator, connector, score. It's like role based. It's not, and that's what it would. And those things were implied via the position pause. It's like, hey, yo, whoa. But we're getting real metaphorical there, I guess. Hey, yo, but what are we saying? Again, it's like it was implied that if you're a point guard, that usually means you're more, playmaking, assist focused. If you're, a shooting guard, you're probably more perimeter shooting focused. Hey, yo, a small forward's a little bit more of a do it all. And then, obviously kind of just keep going through your descriptions there. But, now it describes the role in the scheme versus like what the actual spot on the court is. So, we'll be rewriting basketball a little bit later, I guess. We'll, see how we keep cooking up there. We'll see if that catches on a generator. I guess, see, the problem is we still have all of the same like logos for the things. Maybe that would be helpful. I don't know. It'd be like, okay, well, what are your initials for this guy? Well, this guy's prime generator, so he's going to be PG, and this guy's kind of more of a shooting generator, so he'll be a SG, and then this guy's kind of just a connector, so he'll be a C. So maybe that's the one that's different from like a center. I don't know. But, it's like, okay, we just have the same version of basketball again. It's like, speaking of streaming services, it's like how it's just all going back to cable at some point. It's like, let's just bundle these all together and then put them in one package, and then you can buy them all together and flip through the channels. It's like, oh, that is a good idea. I don't know. I guess the next level, they're like, okay, well, how do we make it so you select one at a time? Well, you can flip through, and then this channel is, I guess, we still have channels. Hey, they still have like fast channels and stuff. I guess it's more the combo now. That's the problem, is the streaming services have kind of like opened up some of their fast channels on there. So it's like Netflix just hasn't done like the live TV option on Netflix, which is like, really, why haven't they? Hey, yo. Again, all of these things do have fast channels anyway, so you could just have a couple of, add in a bunch of Netflix specific ones where it's just like, okay, Netflix action, here's Netflix original action movies, but then kind of the one big one that's mixed in for the month as well, too. Pause. Hey, yo, not to just help out big corporate Netflix over there, but, just an idea to help our user experience out. I guess it is what it is. But, hey, yo, I guess, obviously we got more NBA moves to get to and such tonight. So, we'll be back after this quick break. More NBA right after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and like we said, we have more NBA moves to get through here from the early part of the offseason. So, hey, yo, obviously, the list is just all of the moves. We should probably have filtered it out for some of the important ones. I guess, it just depends as well, too, as it just, depends on which ones we hit first, because as we were going through the list, like, some of these would be interesting to get to eventually. Like, I guess, like, Luke Kennard to Phoenix. It's like, okay, there is something there. Like, hey, yo, wasn't Luke Kennard hitting, like, 50% from 3 in the playoffs? Like, again, like, it seems like it's still pretty valuable. Of all the white guys that the Lakers could have kept, hey, yo. Like, I get Walker Kessler is good. Maybe do we just start with Walker Kessler? Hey, yo, pause. I don't know, chat. We've already eviscerated the Celtics. Do we eviscerate the Lakers? We're taking down classic franchises. I guess this did that makes me think of this, though. I was thinking about this. Hey, yo, we're backtracking thoughts now from the Celtics Philly trade. That are like the old school NBA rivals dead in a way, because professional sports doesn't obviously carry the same sort of franchise rivalries the way that like colleges do, obviously. Like, Michigan and I don't even have to say they're rivals, so we're not going to. But they'll be rivals with a couple schools. I mean, Yaxel Lendenborg's feuding with Draymond right now because they both went to rival schools in Golden State. Or both teammates at Golden State, they're feuding because they went to rival schools, and they went to school 20 years apart. Hey, 15 maybe, but still, they're still rivals. Again, obviously the NCAA carries that institutional rivalry. Hey, Alabama and Auburn are always going to be rivals. And then you get guys on TV. Oh, you went to Florida. You went to Georgia. We're going to make a bet. Again, guys in locker rooms making bets and stuff all over. If they went to school, they didn't even compete against each other. But, the rivals in the NBA are obviously more era specific, and they're a little bit more team specific. Hot take. But, again, they don't carry the same way. The Celtics and the Lakers were able to get some different versions of it, for sure. Like, that's definitely the most historic one that we can think of, right off the top. If you were just going to say what is the one, that's obviously the one that we point to. And you do have the great history of, like, again, the player and the team sort of individual battles. Obviously, Wilt wasn't in LA the entire time, but, he did have a moment there in LA. And I don't think Wilt would have played Russell in LA. So maybe that does, that rivalry itself is a little muted. But obviously, you do have the two defining rivals of the time both playing in LA. It'd be like if Curry had went to the Lakers, I guess, is more so than like if if LeBron had went to, LeBron going to the Warriors here soon, I guess. But either way, you still had a Jerry West, Celtics Lakers rivalry there as well, to Elgin Baylor versus the Celtics. So there was still a Lakers Celtics their thing in the I guess in the 60s and maybe in the 70s a little bit too. Did they play in the finals in the 70s and obviously in the 80s? With Bird and Magic. The 90s, it would have stepped back a little bit, as both those teams were not necessarily the most competitive throughout that entire decade. But, in the it really was the end of the 2000s, obviously, that it got reignited for a little bit. But really, if you think about like this entire century, again, outside of the fact that, Kobe and rest in peace Kobe and those guys battled, for a couple seasons there, like, they haven't really been rivals. They're not even really, like, you don't really think of Boston and the Lakers as rivals now. Like, again, you get sort of the ESPN will run the rivalry packages and they'll run the rivalry footage when they play the primetime games on ESPN. And it almost seems a little bit like it almost proves the fact that they're not rivals now. And, even still, like, I guess, Luka is one of those guys that could just, hey, like, be a hateable guy for the other fans. Like, I don't know. But the problem is, like, Boston fans might kind of secretly like Luka. Hey, what are we saying there? But, either way, for, like, there could be a sports hatred that forms there. Luka, he's a smack talker. He's not afraid to go at a fan base in a game. So maybe it could get reignited a little bit. Hey, Paul George versus Luka. I don't know. But, Tatum versus Luka could still be a great player rivalry. And, obviously, again, those teams aren't consistently in the finals as much as they were through the 60s through the 80s there for that 20-year stretch. But, again, even, like, you almost Boston and Philly might be more like actual legit city rivalries. And, again, that could just be my disassociation with not being in the East Coast and just not knowing that more instantly. Hey, I was like, oh, yeah, obviously we're more rivals. But, and, Boston and New York, there is the knowledge that, yes, there is a rivalry there, but again, it just, obviously it doesn't feel that way, pause, when you're watching the games, for the main reason that all these guys are friends, and I feel like that carries over into the GM stuff as well, too. Like, Brad Stevens is not thinking about this, we can't make a trade with Boston. If and maybe if they allow trades in the NIL, maybe it'll be totally wrong, it'll be a business, and, the teams will trade, but if they let you trade in the NCAA, I can't imagine a scenario where, Michigan is trading with their rival in Columbus. I just can't imagine that at all. It may be a minor scale move where you're just okay, one side sees the upside here and it makes sense for the other side to just do it. So it's okay, we have to get this done. But, there would have been no world where it's okay, can we get a better quarterback? Even if we would have thought okay, let's trade McCarthy to Ohio State for the better quarterback. We never would have done that because, again, we just would never trade with them. We're just no, we'll just keep McCarthy. Our team's still pretty good. So they're I don't, maybe Brad Stevens has personal rivalries with some teams. I don't know, but I just don't think I don't think teams are looking at this now. Oh, can we not trade this team to our rival or whatever? Because, again, does Boston not have rivals? Maybe they wouldn't have traded him to New York. Again, that would be the other one. But obviously, they can't say they wouldn't trade it to Philly because they literally did. And they were willing to get screwed over by Philly as well, too. So it's not only was he willing to take the trade, he was willing to get, worked on a deal by Philly. It's hey, yo, what happened? What happened to a good old rivalry, chat? It is what it is. But I guess, that has us speaking of the Lakers as well, too. Again, maybe Boston will just like this whole Lakers team. I don't know. But, again, maybe I'm underestimating Walker Kessler because, we have seen what a good defensive center will do in San Antonio. Obviously, Wemby is pretty impactful. But, again, Wemby's also our lead offensive guy as well at times. He projects as pause. Well, you assume that he continues to develop. And, again, that was the hot take of him going into the league was oh, is he going to be the best offensive and defensive player by year 3 was the statement that somebody made there. But again, it implies obviously that he has the ability to at least be the best offensive player on his own team as well, too. Again, I don't know what Walker Kessler is providing offensively. Obviously, he's providing an outlet for Doncic on some of these things, but on some of these, pause on some of these pick and rolls and, rolling to the basket. But I don't know. Again, we were talking about how the league has evolved out of sort of that James Harden era from 2018. It seems like a very 2016, very 2018 type of setup. With we need to get a Clint Capella type of guy, with all shout out. And honestly, Clint Capella, maybe a little more mobile than Walker Kessler. Maybe would rather have Capella than Kessler. I don't honestly know. Again, I'm probably underrating Kessler's offensive game as well too. I just can't really picture it. And he's also not that healthy. So, I hate to, the Rem and Sam pod eviscerates Walker Kessler. Hey, it is, shout out. We gotta say some good things. Obviously, again, he is exactly the type of center that Doncic needs in those pick and roll scenarios. But you even think about what Lively is able to provide in terms of switching on to perimeter guys. He's a little bit more capable there. It is a different type of roller offensive impact guy as well too. Maybe Kessler was starting to have a 3-point game. I don't know. Do we have to check that out here? Has he got a corner 3 that he's been kind of sneaky working on? I don't know. But we start going and did they trade? They traded Gobert because they had Kessler. Was that part of the timeline there? Obviously, there was just franchise resets that they were doing in general. The strong offensive rebounding, that is important. That's very, very important. The Spurs lost the finals because they couldn't rebound. So, maybe I'm just being jealous there. Obviously, again, when you have Doncic being able to control so much of the scoring, that's really, really important. But, again, is Kessler going to be the same type of backline defender as Anthony Davis, where it's you could have sort of this weakness in the front court defensively and then make up for it because you know that your around the basket defense is going to be so strong with who you have, in your backcourt there. And, again, obviously the games, played for Kessler every year have gone down. So that's not ideal as well. But, again, he is just even, no LeBron or not, he is a center upgrade. So he is one of those moves that I guess I don't know how the contract works in terms of did they have to sacrifice the LeBron contract to bring in Walker Kessler? I don't know. But in theory, maybe it would have been Reeves if that case. But if you're bringing in Kessler with either one of those guys, like it's an upgrade at center. So you do have to do that. Like I do understand that. And I do like as well too that they were just like, DeAndre Ayton, see you later. Like we are good to go. They got him right to what? So, Washington is like, you know, Lakers East, I guess almost at this point. They've got DeAndre Ayton and Anthony Davis now. And I guess, basically just so Lakers front court East in a way. But, I guess Davis didn't have to play with Ayton when they were in LA, if I remember correctly. But maybe he was from some of the stories. I don't know if like there was like a Clutch Sports party that they were at, and LeBron was like, "Oh, here's the stories about playing with Ayton," and Ayton's like, "Oh, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that." And then he wakes up and he's like, "Oh, what just happened?" He's like, "I just got traded." It's like I didn't realize this was like a horror movie before. And it's like, LeBron's like planting, it's like foreshadowing that we're gonna be trading for DeAndre Ayton. But again, that's actually like kind of a good scenario for that's like back in like that's like the Portland 2.0 for DeAndre Ayton. I know that he wants his own team. Speaking of Clint Capella, obviously, DeAndre Ayton thinks he could cook Clint Capella. And maybe DeAndre Ayton does have some skill there. A peak version pause of DeAndre Ayton versus Clint Capella. Like I think he could probably get him in 1-on-1. Again, DeAndre Ayton was the number 1 overall pick back in the day. But right now, is that a Netflix showdown, chat? A pay-per-view, Ayton versus Capella 1-on-1. Why not? It's the summer. We got nothing going on. I'm sure they could make room for it in summer league. But what are we saying for get the score out of here, Chad? We don't want to see that. How do we reset this page? What happened? Why is the page froze with the final score up there? Oh, I forgot how many points Brunson dropped in that last game. Just terrifying. But again, and I guess the Lakers, are we looking at a little bit through the prism of Boston? They both kind of lose like a major forward in the team. Obviously, again, Brown leaving and LeBron leaving, for both those franchises there. Boston, I think actually in the situation between those two franchises, I actually feel a little bit more confident in the Lakers. Like I would actually probably rather have the Boston roster than the Lakers roster at this point. Maybe we'll have to do some type of ranking, as the offseason continues to progress here. And I guess we didn't even continue to look at all the guys that they got Sabonis in that trade as well too. I thought they had Sabonis already. Oh, so that was the other piece of it that really, really exploded for that team. Pause. So yeah, the Pacers really won that trade. Well, I guess, really won the trade again. Paul George was like an MVP when he was on OKC, and they also traded him for Shea and won a title. So I guess, it worked out great for both teams. But, literally both teams were in the finals in some ways because of that trade there. And then, yeah, obviously, flipped Sabonis for Halliburton. So both kind of, the same path there. And then, Shea and the Clippers trade for George as well. And then now Jaylen Brown as another name in there. So I guess, yeah, if you have both Oladipo and Sabonis and Shea, and I guess, would you have like Jalen Williams as one of the picks in the lineup and then Jaylen Brown as well too? Like again, the all traded for Paul George team is, probably one of the best all traded for teams of all time. Oh, I guess Danilo Gallinari is technically in there. And then 8 first-round picks. Trey Mann, Jalen Williams, Cason Wallace, Topic, Sorber, Ade Mara. And then a 2028 and a 2031. I guess somehow Presti's going to get that. I don't know how, but and then 2 seconds as well. True, it says George may truly be the most valuable player in NBA history. I mean, obviously not, because technically, the most valuable player actually doesn't get traded. I guess that's the point of he has so much value, like he can't get traded, right? Like, again, that's like, peak LeBron, peak Steph. It's like, actually, there's nothing in the league that is tradable for this guy. Like, the point of Paul George is that you can consistently find a trade package to get him, I guess, even if it's an overpay. Like, it is out there. So, but yes, in terms of a trade sense, obviously, it is a pretty good market that he has generated, if we could say that. From an NBA trading standpoint, the players, again, the name talent involved has obviously been pretty impressive. I'm trying to think, like Chris Webber obviously had that draft night trade. Was it Chris Webber and then Vince Carter? And then maybe his other trade, obviously he's a big name, so there's going to be big, other, decent name players involved there for the trades moving around. But I don't know if like the all Chris Webber traded for team would would be a decent matchup there. Or, it'd be some random guy as well, too. It'd be like the all Mike Miller traded for team. And it'd be like, oh, superstars. I didn't realize he was traded for all these picks that turned into these good players or something like that. But, again, for the Lakers, I guess, it'll be too, but they still have Pelinka, they still have Redick, they still have like it's still 90% of the pieces of the LeBron era. So yes, again, LeBron is not there, and they can continue to hand the keys of the franchise to the Lakers or to Luka, and there is that, LeBron is leaving to find some different expectations as well too. Like again, like both the franchise and LeBron are trying to reset a little bit in a different way, but again, for the Doncic side of things, like, you still have him there where at least he gets to be in LA, I guess, compared to Dallas, if that's, at least a little bit of a franchise upgrade, even if, you have to give Dallas their respect for the franchise value. But it's not like the basketball situation is, all of a sudden that much better overall compared to where he was at. Again, at least it was him and Kyrie in Dallas. Like, you're like, okay, Luke and Kyrie versus Luke and Reeves. Like, I like Luke and Kyrie. But again, like Derek Lively in there, obviously that's what kind of what Cooper Flag has right now. So it's like, again, the Lakers and the Mavs are kind of on the same tier at this point, and the Mavs were, a 30-win team last year, and I don't know if you're looking at the franchise guy as well, too, if like the Mavs are, reconsider, they're like, okay, I don't know if they would actually trade, they probably wouldn't trade, if that would be a sneaky thing to ask the Mavs fans. Like, would you trade Cooper Flag for Luka right now? Like, if you could bring Luka back, I think they would probably say no. They'd probably just say, you know what, let's see what this Cooper Flag era brings us. The guy plays defense. Maybe Nico Harrison was onto something there. No, probably not giving him credit, obviously, but just, just how the situation had worked out. I guess, not to give like Cooper, it's not giving Cooper Flag the credit as well too for how it worked out, but just the luck of the draw there. This really is it. Adam Silver just gifted him the #1 pick in some ways. And I don't even know what they got back for Ayton as well too. So, is that they got Jaden Hardy back? So, and then a couple of seconds. So, in terms of minutes, again, hot take or shocker, we're pro Jaden Hardy here on the Rem and Sam pod, but again, it's an outside looking in move. Honestly, like Colin Sexton is like kind of like the sneaky underrated move. Like, and Quentin Grimes as well too. Like Pelinka, as much as you're like, okay, what is this guy doing? Like he, is Walker Kessler too much? You're getting, Reeves at 40 million. Are we going to be looking at the top end of the roster going, how does that compete with the rest of the top end of the West? But, again, like Grimes and Colin Sexton is like your 5th and 6th guys. Mamusvili is your 7th, is maybe starting to get a little bit out there, but he's been good as well too. So, getting to see him in an elevated role is probably earned to some degree. But again, like Grimes is quality, and like we're saying, so is Sexton. Sexton's obviously been pretty underrated. Was a very, very efficient numbers guy there in Utah, and I guess he kind of went to Charlotte and maybe somewhere else after that. I guess I don't know. He kind of started getting, I don't know, getting a little lost in the shuffle there maybe. But or did he go to the Lakers after that and then just get hurt or something? And now he's re-signed. I don't know. We could just double check the history there. Again, like LaRavia is, like a good role player as well too. But the 2nd and 3rd in terms of the Western Conference, again, like Reeves and Kessler versus Castle and Harper versus, I guess, who did the Mavs? I guess, again, Flag is there, and then kind of the depth of the, even Merez Johnson and Derek Lively though. Like it's not a automatic yes that you're taking Kessler and Reeves there. At least you're like, okay, let me think. Merez was just, contract stuff that I have to think about. Again, Lively's not, $40 million a year at this point. You got $70 million a year tied up in both those guys. Again, in some of the more, harsh salary cap era. So, and we're not going to sit here and say the Bronny $2 million is, weighing down the salary cap. That's actually fine. Who cares? Shout out Bronny, hot take. Bronny's a good 10th man on your roster. It'll be fine. Cameron Carr is a good draft pick. So, maybe if those guys elevate up and it's like, okay, Luka and Kessler and maybe Sexton takes some of the Reeves minutes if they need a little more defense in the playoffs at some point. Could you play Mamushvili and Kessler next to each other? You probably can. I guess LaRavia could be a 4. Luka, LaRavia, Kessler, Sexton, and then, maybe Cameron Carr. Like, he's not going to elevate that much in year 1. But, I can't write that off totally. But, Grimes maybe as well in that role. 2 in a row? Nope. Hey, yo, Chad, again, modern NBA, you only get one. It is what it is. But what are we saying for, again, maybe that is like a feisty playoff lineup around Luka, if it is like a classic Luka scenario. But is that where you want to be for competing as a title for a team? Again, that's where the Mavs were at. It's like, well, this team is okay, but yes, if Luka scores 35 points a game in the playoffs, actually we have a chance. It's like, yes, but that's the argument with anybody, and that's, of course, Luka is one of those guys with that potential. But the point of building out a championship team is just that, is you have a championship team and you have the different outlets to be able to go to. And hey, yo, maybe I'm getting a little too critical here, but the Spurs signing Tobias Harris is up on the move here. And as I look at the move as well too, I have to remember it is, overall like not too much of a, it's not too much of a salary cap commitment here to bring in Tobias Harris. But I guess, just to continue on kind of what I'm thinking from a team building philosophy standpoint, like, a very, very obviously capable stats guy. We've seen him, produce important numbers in the playoffs this past year for Detroit. But, again, he's not one of those guys that I don't think elevates to be like a second best, again, second is obviously strong, but, elevates up to be like the second, third best player on a title team in that scenario. And again, it's benefiting to the Spurs that he doesn't necessarily have to be that. But I do kind of obviously, again, maybe we're getting a little too greedy. Is like, can everybody on the roster be the best player on the court? But there is a little bit of something with that to bring in the guys. Again, maybe Tobias Harris is perfect in that lane for $15 million a year. Again, he can get like, 9 points in a row at some point, but then also just, really hold down the power forward spot in a professional way if he needed to. Again, we had Harrison Barnes is, I guess he re-signed for $8 million, but he was kind of in a similar level. Champagnie at $15 million a year. So is Tobias Harris like a way worse basketball player than Champagnie? Like, again, different sort of skill sets, but I wouldn't necessarily say that. Obviously, again, Harper's on his rookie deal, so it's a little bit different there with him at 12. And honestly, again, like Tobias Harris at 15 versus Luke Cornett at 10 mil, like, makes Luke Cornett look like, he's the most overpaid guy in the league at this point. But, again, if we're looking at like the Kessler situation as well, like, is Kessler going to be that guy that you're like in a playoff series, like, oh, Kessler's all of a sudden just the second best guy in the series and just totally dominating. So, again, like, they're maybe a little bit of a better roster, or just they've retooled to sort of be at the same level of competency, but they're not in a better playoff spot around Luka Doncic. If, I'm just kind of looking at it for what the early offseason has been. But, again, like they have at least, retooled to have, again, a lot of good professionals there. It's still going to be a competitive team. And, maybe, I'll probably end up talking myself into the Tobias Harris signing as well too. And we do need some offense in the front court. Like, we went really, with defense and athleticism in the draft. Obviously, Quinn Dents is real upside swing as well too, just from the health. I don't know why I'm being so pessimistic tonight. It is what it is. I'm actually kind of, we're in a good mood. Hey, we got the NBA's back. We got a lot of moves. We got a classic game on. The Argentina game was great. So, hey, we got a challenge pending against Brian Scalabrine. Like, hey, vibes are good right now. But I guess, I don't know. It's just, some pessimistic NBA takes. It is what it is. But, either way, what was I saying for, what were we saying ripping into Tobias Harris? I don't know. I don't know there for a second. I guess I was saying I was going to, probably talk myself into it at some point when he starts playing. But, oh, we were saying the scoring, the athleticism. We didn't. I was being pessimistic about Quindens. It is what it is. I am getting a little worried about the injuries there. I don't know about the guy that has like 17 knee surgeries and then keeps playing. But, again, if we need him off the bench, like in a different type of role, then, again, being like Ben Wallace for the team, then maybe that is fine. And obviously we love Terrace Reed as well too, but maybe a little more post focused than actually being like a, defensive or secondary scoring type of guy. Again, weirdly kind of do you run the scoring post scoring through him in some ways, but, we'll see if his skill set, broadens around that as well too. But, again, Tobias Harris actually does have some complementary skills that, can fit next to those guys as well too. So that's what I do like about the move. And again, he was important to Detroit this past year. And if at least from a regular season standpoint, he does stabilize, that is going to be important because again, this was a very emotionally taxing finals. The fact that literally the Spurs could have won the finals and just the one thing would obviously just be like, do they realize the mental toll of getting there? Because they haven't really had not getting there. Am I saying that right before? Yeah, but that makes sense. Like they haven't done the run and gotten short of the finals itself. Like they've at least made it all the way to the point where they're like, okay, we could have won this thing. So it's not like, oh, the exhausting season to just lose in the second round again or something like that. So, maybe that will keep them from being like totally deflated after that type of thing. They're like, okay, we were right there. We can just cruise through the West again. We can get back. But, for the regular season, I, would hope that at least he stabilizes them there. But again, I don't know if Tobias Harris ultimately does elevate the playoff ceiling of the Spurs. If again, I am being pessimistic about it, but obviously having Harper taking a step forward, having Castle taking a step forward, and just having Wemby, really just having all those guys show up in the finals, or having Wemby show up in the finals. Hate to call him out, but it is what it is. Having Wemby offensively show up in the finals is really going to be the thing that is going to just help us out and would help us win the series. Because again, with the first version of the team, and yes, the cards fell in a very favorable way. That does have to happen for a team to make the finals. You can't deny that. Are the Spurs going to get unlucky? Is there going to be a team that gets more lucky? If that makes sense, again, the Spurs have obviously been on the wrong side of some historic shots. It could be, what if it's game 6 and some guy just hits a half court shot at the end of the game and it's just like, oh, okay, or banks it in or something, I guess the most random scenario, throws it behind his head and it goes in or something like that. But again, it could be anything. The Spurs, I don't want to say the obvious thing that could detract the Spurs themselves from having that run. But again, there is always obviously that could be there as well too. And again, Tobias Harris 15 mil, Vassell 26, Keldon Johnson 18 mil. Like it's not too heavy of a price tag. So it's fine, 2 years is not going to be, again, the major salary cap commitment there, but keeps you in a good window. And, the fact that we're, obviously at this point committing to Fox in the offseason as well, too. The guard situation is going to be, pretty set there. So, continuing to just build the front court options around Wembanyama is good. Is Tobias Harris better than Jaylen Williams? Is he better than AJ Mitchell healthy? Again, the Thunder didn't have AJ Mitchell in the playoffs. So say we for the Spurs there for some of those games. So say we rematch against the Thunder and they have AJ Mitchell back. Are we better with Tobias Harris and they have AJ Mitchell? But also, they would have Jaylen Williams back at that point. And again, that's just a 1-for-1 player comparison there. That's a pretty close one. Hopefully that matchup wouldn't swing the finals for us. But again, it could. You never know. So, and, I guess the ultimate thing that it would be, I guess, not concerning because I guess LeBron maybe did say he was willing to take a minimum. But I do obviously, again, hot take. Hey, we're just a hot take night here on the REMINGTOM pod. But this may be the first optimistic thing we say. And of course, it's going to be in regards to LeBron. Hey, but, hot take again, we would want LeBron here on the team. So maybe I'm sure there is still a world where we could get LeBron and Tobias Harris. But, if that was something that was a possibility, that it's like, okay, well, now that we've spent the 15 mil on Tobias Harris, like, LeBron, we can give you 20 instead of 35. It's like, what? I guess, again, would you rather have LeBron for 20 and Tobias Harris for 15 or just LeBron for 35? Well, yes, you'd probably rather have the 2 players than the 1 player in almost any situation. But, again, if we had to choose between just one, I'm still taking LeBron because that goes to the Thunder theory. That goes to the rest of the Western Conference theory. Hot take. If LeBron's out there, we're better against those teams, even regardless of what they do. It's like, okay, well, we know Denver's not going to trade for, LeBron. And, it's if Tobias Harris goes to the other team, like if the Thunder get, even incrementally better, again, they're almost better than the Spurs anyway. So that's just that's the fear there. But, if Tobias Harris goes to Denver, it's like, okay, that's something. Like, yes, him next to Jokic is fine. If he goes to Dallas, if he goes to the Lakers, like it's like it's a good move. but it's not that title winning type move. Again, it's a little like, you know, hey, yo, the Spurs just locked in a ring. They brought in Tobias Harris. And it's like, okay, I would love to think that. But also, I don't know if Tobias Harris has necessarily been like, the good luck charm for every team that he's been on in the playoffs as well, too. So, again, I think we need to at least, play the season out before we start crowning the Spurs the champions, as much as I would love to do that, with where the offseason is at right now. But, again, obviously, like we're saying, LeBron would be the hot take, the big get here, which we did make the list. Hey, yo, chat, we're on the list for LeBron. And I was thinking about this as well, too, for, I guess LeBron always kind of generating a first somehow throughout the course of his career. Like, this is weirdly the first time that we haven't known where LeBron is going, because, he does obviously the draft. He's going to be the number 1 overall pick. That's no question. So the only time we wouldn't have known when he was going to play in the NBA was before the lottery, when we didn't know who was actually going to have the number 1 pick. And then, Cleveland wins the number 1 pick. They're not even going to trade the number 1 pick as well, too. It's not even a question of like, well, if a team were to swoop in and, in 03, like, I don't even know who would it have been in 03. Like, I guess it would have had to have been Kobe. Hey, they're like, okay, if the Lakers just swoop in and give him Kobe and however many first round picks. And again, obviously the Lakers wouldn't have done that as well. I guess, again, I'm not 100% sure where the Lakers were on that timeline there, but regardless, we're just assuming the Lakers wouldn't have done that in 03. But that is, legitimately the only type of move. Or obviously Duncan. Again, the Spurs, would you have traded Duncan and the rights to manage Ginobili for, and multiple first round picks for LeBron? But, again, would Cleveland have done that as well, too? They're like, actually, this guy's from our hometown. We'll kind of just, literally he's the chosen face of the league. Like, we might just as well keep him at this point. So, he was going to the Cleveland. And then the decision, like, he, I don't remember exactly the full lead up as to like where is he going to go, but it was just sort of like, if I remember correctly, he kind of announced his free agency all at once, right? It was like that was the whole thing. He's like, I'm taking my talents to South Beach. So it wasn't this whole process of, again, where is LeBron going to go? And then even in the free agency going to the Lakers, we had the season kind of leading into the free agency where it was more a question of like, okay, is this where he's actually going to leave Cleveland? It was like, no, he's Windhorse is like, he's buying the house. He's out. Like, don't, trust me. He's going to LA. We're like, well, maybe he would stay for at least 1 more year. Who knows? And then he's like, oh no, he actually left. But again, he didn't have the free agency. Like, maybe he did take a meeting with a couple of teams. But, again, it was almost so well, and, Woj at that time, it was so well reported that LeBron was going to the Lakers that even, the meeting with Philly at the time would have been, it did seem a little like, okay, maybe that's just a formality. Again, I'm not even 100% sure if he took a meeting or if that was just a theory I was hearing at the time. But, regardless, it seemed like he was pretty set to go to LA that whole time. So this is like somehow 20 plus years in for LeBron, and this is somehow the most open free agency that he's been in, which I guess, makes sense to some degree. Year 20 he was probably going to be, with respect to the value, with respect to him as it now, it's like just, the quote unquote least value that he's had. Again, we're still talking about some of the most value in the league as well. And then Rich Paul went out and said as well, too, that, which, who even knows if it's true or if he's just saying it now because he can. But he basically said that if the Knicks didn't win the title, that he would go to the Knicks. So, I guess, Durant went to the team that lost. So I guess, that would be the Durant move there for LeBron. So is that the Easter egg then, that LeBron's going to the Spurs? That LeBron would only go to the team that loses the title and not win the title? But I guess, he can't join the team that wins the title. And more importantly, like, he can't have the legacy credential of bringing New York back. Again, going back to what we were saying earlier about guys, getting their opportunity in the legacy rankings is really what it, was able to majorly accomplish for Brunson as well, too. And, again, now he's just majorly ascended because he had such a great run, but because he also was able to bring New York basketball back and bring them their first title in half a century. Again, that's just something, even if LeBron were to help New York repeat, it's not the same. He's helping Jalen Brunson repeat. He's not bringing even if Jalen Brunson was there and they was still the best player and like the finals MVP, there's always going to be that storyline if LeBron goes there and helps him win the title. It's like, oh, well, LeBron helped him win it. And that's always going to be the factor. Again, even if Brunson win the MVP, like, that's just something that he can't have now. So maybe that's where, and maybe the Jaylen Brown trade does actually, again, like, so maybe again, like, we can't say that Tobias Harris would, write LeBron off for $15 million if the Philly can bring in Jaylen Brown for $60 million and, bring LeBron in still. But from a talent standpoint, it is a little bit different. And again, from a franchise narrative standpoint, we're not totally again to the same desperation where New York is at. And even if we were going back 10 years ago, like if Carmelo had done this 10 years ago, again, he would have been, anointed the same way that Jalen Brunson has. It's not like, Brunson needed the 10 extra years, but obviously, that does add extra time for desperation as well too. So, it would be a major deal if LeBron, but also, again, like Philly has had titles. So like New York did have a couple of Giants titles in there, and I'm trying to think baseball. Maybe there is some Yankees titles, so I guess, and maybe some hockey titles. So I guess maybe I just need to, keep up with more sports. I don't know what's going on in football, but again, like Philly has been a little bit more successful in football over the last, century, really, the last century. I mean like this century, like the last 20 years compared to the Giants. Again, just consistently year to year. They're just a more competitive in the mix team. So I don't know. They're just the Philly city desperation doesn't feel the same. And it only honestly would seem a little bit like a copy of New York. I hate to call them out like that, but it would seem like they would almost be trying to like get some of that same cachet that New York's getting right now. It's like, okay, well, let's set ourselves up. If we win our title next, like, now let's like start being like, oh, we're as desperate as any team has ever been. Hey, really, like the only, like, it would have to be like, again, like Sacramento. It'd be like, LeBron gets like Sacramento a title, and then that would be like the franchise that, like, he really brings out of the weeds at that point, I guess. I don't know. Again, because obviously he already did it with the Heat, did it with the Cavs. The Spurs have an infrastructure at this point. So LeBron could still be, again, that legacy piece. Like, that would still be the narrative of LeBron helped Wemby get his first title, or, his only title, or whatever, however, that ended up playing out as well too. But it wouldn't be him restoring the franchise in the same way. Denver would be interesting, but I don't see it. I don't know. Again, maybe I said that on the last live stream, and then immediately he's just like, actually, Rich Paul has to release an official statement after that. He's like, actually, the Rebel Sam pod is wrong. Denver is on the list. Don't worry, Denver fans. LeBron is still considering you. But, I just, for some reason, LeBron in the Denver jersey, I don't visualize. We can perfectly visualize in the Spurs jersey. I don't know, but the Denver is the one that, again, I don't see him on the Heat as well. I can't honestly believe that the Heat and the Cavs are on this list. Why is he going to go to the Cavs? He wants to win a title and he's going to go to Cleveland. Yeah, I guess he already did it once, but he had Kyrie. Kyrie's just better than Donovan Mitchell is. Sorry to Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's really good, but Kyrie is just a little bit better. So I think we do kind of have to put Philly as the new number one on the roster. Because again, even if Jaylen Brown or Maxey wins the finals MVP, like the LeBron narrative is still the number one narrative. And it's a credit to Brunson as well too. Again, like, of the two guys on the pod, he was the one not, glazing LeBron all the time. So, does he get the legacy bump there? I don't know. But, he is you don't say like overshadow LeBron, but, Brunson has built his own legacy, at least at this point. And it's not the all-time legacy versus LeBron. It's just, again, where the guys stand actively as players in 2026, their current basketball talent, what that can produce on the court. And, again, there are obviously a handful of guys besides Brunson that, can lead a team a little bit better than LeBron can at this point. But, again, Brunson, I think, is one of the few, even compared to Giannis and Jokic. Like, I think Brunson might be, hot take, the fourth most, do you say like the NBA aura rankings at this point? Like, he might low key, it's probably a little too much to start putting him into the Steph LeBron tier for the entire century based off one run. Again, obviously those guys have done so much, so that's just a credit to LeBron and Steph, not a diss to Brunson at all. But it is a little like that right now. And if again we're just talking about century defining guys, at least he's past Jokic and Giannis in terms of a name value standpoint. And I think again the century, like, I guess now I'm leaving Duncan out there as well too, and Kobe. Like, again, I just immediately put Brunson over. I just immediately put Brunson over a lot of guys. It is, but I'm thinking of guys that are active right now as well too. LeBron and Steph obviously both playing, and then Brunson who could LeBron play with right now whose legacy could match up to his? And again, Curry would be the other one. And I think Brunson is, got some legacy weight. Again, I'm not phrasing this correctly, but I hopefully if I misphrase it enough times, you're like, okay, I think there is something there. I don't know. But hey, yo, Chad, I don't know if that's how misinformation works. It's like, is there enough, the truth's in there somewhere. Hey, yo. But I think you get what we're saying. Like, Brunson has enough credibility. Maybe I should just use the word credibility instead of legacy. Like, he has enough credibility in the league right now to match LeBron's active credibility in the basketball terms. Again, it doesn't even make sense because LeBron's in his own tier. But, again, of the tier that it would be, like, some of those guys are there. Obviously, again, Wemby not having a title. Like, he does have a star power nest that could get there. But, he doesn't have that title right now. So, LeBron would still be a overshadowing factor, I think, a little bit. Not overshadowing, but at least, you'd have two sort of dueling presences in San Antonio there versus, again, like LeBron taking over the roster, or the other way around, where it's like LeBron totally gets overshadowed as well, too. Again, not overshadowed, but just to be extreme about it. And I think he did have, Dallas was on the list. I guess Boston was the other team I was surprised to be on the list. Because, again, I just don't see, how could LeBron put on the Boston jersey? Hey, yo. It seems like, he was major rivals with him in both Cleveland and LA, and then Cleveland and Miami. And then, obviously, went back to Cleveland, was rivals with them again in Cleveland a second time, and then went to play for the one legacy franchise, like we said, that's like an actual, not marketable, but like the real coastal rival in the NBA, the Lakers versus the Celtics. So then he's going to go play for the Celtics. And that was also, I think this was before the Jaylen Brown trade. No, because they have Jaylen Brown on they have Jaylen Brown on the Lakers. So that, or on the Sixers. So that's maybe even makes it a little more surprising. Like, I don't know, LeBron and Paul George, like, it doesn't seem like, they don't seem like teammates to me for some reason. Hey, yo, the two podcasts on one team, chat. I don't know if the Celtics could handle that. Hey, yo. They're like, imagine I guess, and I did see that as a post as well, too. Somebody was like, oh, look at that. They traded a podcaster for a Twitch streamer. Like, what does 2026 NBA become? But, we used to make fun of the guys in the NBA back in the day for being professionals. We used to say, like, oh, Bill Russell's playing against plumbers and orthodontists. So, now do you just say, like, now, is that the Wemby era, chat? You're like, oh, Wemby just played against Twitch streamers and podcasters. Like, it wasn't as impressive as what LeBron did. Hey, yo. But what are we saying for? I gotta chat. This classic game is just in a black screen right now. It's just in I guess I gotta, it's just in like a blank screen right now. And I guess, oh man, now I gotta connect to the Wi-Fi to get the remote because I gotta skip forward. This classic game was good, chat. Hey, yo. It auto-played again. We were mentioning having the 76ers on in the background because of the trade. We had Dr. J versus... Okay, wait a second. Let me skip ahead here. Is it just the video feed? Okay, I don't know what happened there. Hey, yo. I sat through most of just the blank screen. Whatever old school feed this is on the YouTube video, it just cut out. But, like on the YouTube video itself. So whoever posted that just didn't edit it out. They're just leaving it in pause. Or maybe they don't know. Maybe they haven't watched the whole recording back. It's probably literally a tape, again, from the 70s and 80s, from the 80s, I guess. But what was I saying? I was going to say something else about this here. I was just going to mention what the game was. It's Milwaukee versus the 76ers. So it's Bob Lanier versus Moses Malone. Hey, yo, I don't know if Bob Lanier carries the same sort of name value as Moses Malone, but Bob Lanier was giving the league work back in the day. Do we have to look up Bob Lanier stats real quick? I guess, again, Basketball Reference is tapped out. It is what it is. Let's see what we got here. Bob Lanier, chat. Rest in peace to the legend, who is, again, NBA Hall of Famer, but 8-time All-Star, first team All-Rookie, All-Star Game MVP one year as well, too. Let's see if we can get some stats here on the Wikipedia doesn't have a box score. Okay, here we go. Career totals. What do we got? 20 a game. He was 25 a game, 23, 22, 24, 25, 24, 23, 20. So had a run here, where he kind of bounced around. And I guess Milwaukee was a little bit of that run as well, too. 15, 14, not his highest points per game, but he's given Moses Malone some trouble here in this first half. So, again, able to get back into the bag in some games. when he needs to. 24 and 15 in 72, 73, casually dropping that. 25 and 14 in 71, 72. So, Bob Lanier wasn't playing around, chat. He could ball. It is what it is. Playoffs, 18 a game, 28. Oh, 3 playoff games in 77, but still 28 a game. 26 in 7 games in 74, 75. So, again, maybe never had the great, multi-series run as the lead guy, but you still get to celebrate the tears for everybody's greatness. Again, Bob Lanier was, tearing it up back in the day. So 84 Milwaukee, 16 playoff games, 12 and 7. We're still majorly contributing as well, and obviously, Milwaukee was always able to have some good depth teams there throughout the 70s and 80s after they, lost Kareem. But what were we saying I guess we were just continuing. We got to kind of, move through the rest of these moves here. This is the Paul George trade up next on the list we're looking at. Oh, Santi Aldama to Dallas? Hey, yo. The Grizzlies get Tariq Biberovich and then AJ Johnson and a 2030 first round pick, protected Golden State pick, and then a second round pick, and so 2 second round picks, a first, and AJ Johnson for Santi Aldama. I do, again, hey, yo, we'll find the guy that we're anti against at some point, not even to, call him out, but just to, call ourselves out. Hey, yo, to show we're not biased toward everybody. But, we are pro AJ Johnson on this pod. But we are also pro Santi Aldama as well, too. I don't know if AJ Johnson is quite enough. Like, Aldama's legitimately good. That's a scary move, Chad. Hey, yo, the Mavs are officially... The Lakers should have done that. Hey, yo, the Lakers could have traded Bronny in a first and 2 seconds for Santi Aldama after LeBron left. Call it in. Hey, yo. Again, just because Santi Aldama helps you win the title right now, and then Bronny with Cam Boozer, like that's a beautiful basketball situation, going forward. Hey, yo, perfect player next to Cam Boozer there. But like the defense and the shooting on the perimeter, that would be a good complementary skill set there. But now you have Cooper Flagg and Santi Aldama and Derek Lively. Hey, yo, and Merez Johnson. Their front line is really, really terrifying. And like San Antonio, they drafted some athleticism there, and now they've gone with a little bit, some offense to counterbalance that as well, too. So that is a sneaky signing. Santi Aldama could be like a legit playoff guy for him if they make the series. But, again, Memphis doing the reset, I get it. A first round pick there is not bad as well, too. You got to get that. And AJ Johnson, again, is good. So they just traded Ja. They do have guard minutes to go around here. Let's see if we can pull this team up and see what we have for the rest of the guards. Oh, and they're also bringing in Isaiah Stewart as well. So, he'll be a good mentor. He'll be able to mentor the guys there in Memphis. But the Memphis mentor, hey, yo, we'll change his nickname to that. And that's right. I guess they will have Jeremy Grant's going to be the lead guy now. It'll be good to have Jeremy Grant back. Hey, yo, I think we're the only pod that's had that take so far. But I feel like we haven't seen, good Jeremy Grant production in a while. I guess what does that mean? But, he was a name there for a while. Like, at least he was in the mix in play. He's not going to be in the mix in playoff scenarios. But it was like he was a presence in the league. And again, I guess that, Chad, I feel like we're going to lose our voice here by the time the end of the live stream it goes. It is what it is. But what are we saying for Aldama? Hey, or Jeremy Grant. Again, like some of those Denver teams and stuff, like it was like, okay, again, maybe we know Jeremy Grant, with all due respect, maybe don't like totally give him the keys to the franchise. I don't know if he's quite that level of player, but he could still be a really, really impactful playoff guy. And then he did get buried, some injuries and stuff, but did get buried there a little bit. And what does that mean in Portland? I don't know, but still, they were talented. They were trying stuff. They were, pauses. Again, it just never seemed like it quite lined up in Portland the right way for him there. Because when he was out there, he was still good. So it's not like he was ever bad in Portland per se. But, Jeremy Grant and Cam Boozer, I'm not saying the Grizzlies are like a sleeper playoff team in the offseason. And obviously rest in peace to Brandon Clark as well too. We want to keep that
uh, family there in the thoughts and prayers as well too. But and Chris Murray is a good get. We do also have to remember Cedric Coward as well too. So you have Cam Boozer, Cedric Coward, AJ Johnson. Could you have AJ Johnson and Cedric Coward as your backcourt? They'll probably run Ty Jerome out there at some point. They're also going to give KCP some minutes, I would assume, as well. But again, you could have Gigi Jackson as well. So Jackson, Cowherd, Jaylen Wells, Cam Boozer, those four guys right there. That's not bad. Hey, who else do they have in the draft? Oh, Lopez was the other guy they drafted. I guess, I don't know too much about his game, so I'll need to cook up some of the YouTube highlights there before we see what's going on. Scottie Pippen Jr. is only 26 as well, but those four is that's a foundation. I'm not even lying. That's a legit foundation. We need to bring the Grizzlies up in terms of and again, the league is in obviously a very sort of rich time as well too. There's always a lot of, potential in the league at some point, but that is a really, really interesting core. I was just listening to another short as well too about it was a little bit of an older one. Was it right after the LaMelo trade? I don't know, but obviously our guy Bill Simmons, not a huge LaMelo fan, but it was a short about him saying, is Charlotte the best team in the East going forward, or do they have the best sort of young setup going forward? And again, they're a really talented core. But just thinking of the names, Charlotte to Memphis, obviously Memphis isn't going to be in the East until they realign, so we're not going to have to make that comparison there until a couple of years. But, just as a general basketball, under 25 type of situation. I guess here, let's pull up the Charlotte roster and see, because again, we're also pro LaMelo here as well, too. So hot take. I kind of, I like the Charlotte core better with LaMelo, but this year's basketball team, it makes sense with Kobe White. It's just, the upside of having LaMelo is a lot more. It is what it is. But either way, Brandon Miller, again, you're kind of just down to Brandon Miller and Concanopoulos as your, main building block pieces. Again, with all due respect to Kobe White, maybe we just need to reconsider him there as well too. Diabate, definitely consider him into the group. And then again, Naz Reid's obviously, talented player as well. You're, probably you're probably an equal win team as you were last year. It is what it is. But either way, that Grizzlies core is nice. That Grizzlies core is nice. I guess I don't have, I could just say it. I would rather have the Grizzlies core now than the Charlotte core. It is what it is. Knuppel could arguably be the best player of any of those guys, so that's still any of that. That's still something there. And shout out, Brandon Miller could probably be the second, but again, it's kind of those two guys. And again, I'm leaving out Diabate, but still. So I guess we gotta wait to see. We gotta wait to see. 3 to 4, obviously, Ayo. But either way, that is the point being, it is going to be interesting to see how that team looks in a season or two if that group does stay together there. So yeah, AJ Johnson, can he be the fifth guy, I guess, on the court is essentially what we're asking here. We do have a lot of course, the rookies signing up to the team. So you see that getting locked in there. John Wall, pocket watching Dembasta, I saw. John Wall signed a max contract that was $70 million, and then Dembasta's rookie contract right now is 68. So it's okay, John Wall is obviously, the league's changed a little bit. Marvin Bagley to the Denver Nuggets, chat. Hey, we're definitely moving into a different part of the moves here. That is for sure. If Jokic can turn Marvin Bagley's career into something, imagine, chat. Hey, but, Bagley, hot take, Bagley always needed to be around a player like Jokic, but a real true playmaker. He never really honestly got the point guard. And, again, Bagley was was he the number 2 pick in the draft, chat? Hey, that might have been a little rich back in the day, even though I, really, really loved Bagley's game. But, again, it was the thought of you're not, and maybe Sacramento was thinking about this back in the day, but, and, I was okay, I was always thinking the right way with Marvin Bagley. That's not what I'm saying, but I never really thought he was going to be a franchise guy. Again, it was he could be a really, really high level forward, and his athleticism, did we say, was there some Amari Stoudemire comps? And I guess Amari was a guy that could legitimately have been a franchise guy as well too. But, he was a 1B type of franchise guy, like just on the fringe of being a consistent like first team All NBA guy, and it's also because of how stacked that era was as well too. But it's like you just need, and they obviously had Nash, so they had a little bit more than just a little bit, but you need just a little bit of playmaking there with Amari as well too to kind of help balance out some of the stuff that's going on. And again, you probably need a lot of stuff around Marvin Bagley to be a championship team. Actually, you probably need like 8 better guys. But either way, again, the thought would have been, again, his athleticism and scoring and slashing to the basket and defense is going to be like the highest level complementary skills that you're going to get. But again, obviously some injuries and stuff, like he never developed his that never fully came to fruition as well too, unfortunately. Fontecchio going to Miami, chat. So that's one of those low-key signings. It's like, okay, how's Miami going to get a player? Fontecchio is not bad. Wait a second, I guess, but again, to I guess we probably don't have too much more to say on Bagley there. I guess Deron Holmes is a little Bagley-esque in terms of play style, so maybe Bagley can help out Holmes there. I'm not sure, but that would be, I could see Bagley getting some crazy lobs from Jokic. That could be interesting. Bagley at 27 getting this sort of a little bit of a second life here in Denver could be fun. I don't know, maybe they end, I guess they're not going to trade Gordon because they brought in Bagley, but I'm just saying that that could be a good substitution there, allowing it to kind of keep some similar looks on the court at the same time. But yeah, I guess they don't have Fontecchio listed here. Is he a re-sign? Oh, because he's a re-sign, I guess. So he was already there. Okay, I guess I'm not wasn't caught up on Fontecchio's location. But either way, Fontecchio's good. So as long as he's still there, you still have something. Kyle Anderson to the Raptors. So chat the Raptors rebuilding the Spurs trade from back in the day, though it was Danny Green, but still, obviously, can they re-sign Jonathan Simmons? Who else from the 2017 Spurs can they get? Hey, LaMarcus Aldridge on the Raptors now. Maybe it's like a coach. Coach Aldridge, not bad. Kendrick Williams going back to OKC. Tari Eason, we did mention that earlier, going back to Houston as well too. 5 for 81. So again, keep that in mind for that Paul George trade later down the road. As I'm looking at it, honestly, I take back what I said earlier. I think Houston would flip Paul George or Tari Eason for Paul George. It is what it is. Daquan Plowden. Hey, shout out. 2 for 5 going to Sacramento. Who else do we got here? Oh, Kyle Lowry. It says officially retired from basketball July 2nd, 2026. Do we have to give him a round of applause, a standing ovation, chat? Hey, the great Kyle Lowry. Oh, man. Obviously, again, the levels of the game, but Kyle Lowry qualifies as a great player. Again, speaking of the Raptors, and Kawhi was a guy that proved his overall basketball importance in that finals run, proved that he could be a, obviously, again, the varying degrees, but championship level point guard. That obviously implies that you got, Hall of Fame level wings and stuff going on there around too. But if you do, then he can, help pilot that team there. The double-digit run, 20-point a game run there in Toronto. 15-16, 10th in MVP. One All-NBA team. But, constantly, again, that 20 to 25 sort of best player in the league type of range. 18 a game to, 19 a game here for, 6-7 years in Toronto. I guess even 17 a game in 46 games in 2021 as well too, and that's at 34 years old. So obviously Kyle Lowry, a great case in the patience of your career as well too, and playing it out with the Memphis runs and the Houston run earlier on, but managed to probably find himself in the Hall of Fame as well too. I don't know, Kyle Lowry would definitely, I guess we do say, I guess that was a strong statement. I'm just trying to celebrate the guy's career. It is what it is. So we'll just say the Hall of Fame for now, but maybe we'll just hope that he forgets about that in a little bit. I don't know if the basketball reference is going to load the Hall of Fame indicator. Here, I might have to look this up on a different screen here real quick. Yeah, that's going to be no good. It is what it is. You know what? It's just not the night for basketball reference. They're going to have to, I guess there's something they're working on in the behind the scenes situation there. But let's see. Kyle Lowry. It's probably our computer because it's working over here. But the Hall of Fame percentage is going to be currently listed at what percentage? Oh, I thought we could time that out perfectly. We just missed it. It is what it is. We've got it at 85.7. Whoa, Kyle Lowry's a lock with one All-NBA. You love to see it, but a long career and obviously a lot of All-Stars in there as well too. 85.7 is strong. Hey, yo. Where's he sitting at right now for active players? He's at 14th. He's the 14th best active player. Oh, Towns just passed him, and I don't know if just passed him, but right now for active guys, I mean, I guess we should probably pull this up later because when the screen's working. LeBron, Durant, Curry, James Harden locked in for the Hall of Fame. Westbrook, Jokic, Davis, Giannis, Lillard, not locks. I guess George, Kawhi, Kyrie, not locks as well too. Shea at 82 right now. Draymond at 76. Jimmy Butler at 76. Embiid at 66. Booker at 17%. Booker's at 17% and Kyle Lowry's at 85. Like, is Kyle Lowry, has Kyle Lowry had a better career than Devin Booker? I guess Devin Booker hasn't made the All-Star team. He's only made the All-Star team 2 of the last 4 years. So there maybe has been some injury stuff in there as well, but also just, it's been stacked. But to miss the All-Star team completely, that's honestly probably a snubbing. It is what it is. How did he miss the All-Star team in 24-25? That's a bad look for the NBA right there. It is what it is. But he's 2-time All-NBA, 5-time All-Star, best player on a finals team, and scored 40 points in back-to-back finals games. Is that a worse career than what Kyle Lowry's had? Wait, let's go back to Kyle Lowry here real quick. 6-time All-Star, 1-time All-NBA. So Booker does need to add the one more All-Star. And Brunson's at 13% right now. Brunson, 3-time All-NBA, 3-time All-Star. You're telling me if Jalen Brunson retired right now, he wouldn't be a Hall of Famer? Ooh, chat. DM us at REMINGTOM Pod and let us know. If the league stops today, is Jalen Brunson Hall of Famer? I guess that's different than if he retires, because that just implies that, we're not going to have any more NBA, so we might as well just, put him in the Hall of Fame there. But, if he retires and the league keeps it going, then maybe it's a discussion. But again, with what he accomplished this year, with it being one of the more impressive runs, you would have assumed that based on one strength alone, he would be there. But nope, 13% for our guy Brunson. So he's the lowest one that makes sense, because then you go, I guess, is Jaylen Brown a Hall of Famer is a good question to bring it all the way back around. If again, it just ended, if he retired. If he's like, screw this, I don't want to go to Philly, I'm retiring, I'm done, I'm just going to go Twitch stream for the rest of the life. He is 5-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, Finals MVP, and Eastern Conference Finals MVP. So he's close, but apparently he's only at what percentage? He's only at 8% right now. Edwards is at 6%. Bam Adebayo, 81 points. He's at 81 points. I wish we could see this, chat. I wish we could see this. He has an 81. I guess he didn't have an 81-point game, but he passed Kobe's 81-point game. But his Hall of Fame percentage right now, 8.1. So, kind of meta there. Maybe Adebayo doesn't, quite qualify at this point. But, you have Towns at 86. So Towns is, trending Hall of Famer at this point. Again, NBA champion, 6-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA. So a few more All-Stars than Brunson has achieved. They have him over Shea for legacy points. Again, Shea has 2 MVPs. I guess it's not legacy points, it's Hall of Fame percentage. So maybe we need to build out legacy points as an actual stat. I don't know how it's different than Hall of Fame percentage. We'll have to, maybe we work Hall of Fame percentage into it. Pause. But we'll have to get back to you with the details on that one. For the rest of the moves that we were looking at here, let's see if we got any other major ones to mention. Dorian Finney-Smith, speaking of Houston trades, going to Charlotte, second, and second as well. So 3 seconds to Charlotte for Dorian Finney-Smith. Ayton, like we said earlier, traded for Jaden Hardy, and 2 seconds to Washington. So they were really doing nothing there. Caleb Love signed a 2-way contract with Portland. I thought it was with Philly because he has the Philly logo here, but I think he signed it from Philly. So that's the first move that Philly's made that we don't like. So will he be on Portland's two-way or on their summer league team? Let's hope, because Caleb Love will get a summer league jersey. Hey, yo, the couple of summer league moves here: Trade Donaldson, Jacoby Gillespie. We were already looking at those. Oh wait, Brooks Barnheiser, Josh Dix. Hey, yo, OKC's got a player named Josh Dix. We're just gonna point that out. It is what it is. I don't know if that's a pause or not. And then the latest NBA move: Andre Drummond going to the Knicks. So shout out, they have got their Mitchell Robinson replacement. Mitchell Robinson went to the Celtics. So again, it's just a round robin of rivals going to each other. Literally, you had Brown went from Boston to Philly, Drummond went from Philly to New York, and Robinson went from New York to Boston. So kind of an Eastern Conference. Did they all just, hey, yo, chat, SNL, take notes, get ready for this one. Did they all just move into each other's houses? Oh, chat. Hey, yo. What is this? We didn't even need AI to cook that one up. We're just spitballing here. We're just thinking right off the top of the dome. Hey, yo. Hey, yo. Did Jaylen Brown just go to Drummond's house? Drummond go to Mitchell, or Mitchell go to Jaylen Brown? I don't know how that worked. But, hey, yo, logistically, do we need to make an app, chat? Do we need to make an app that's like, if NBA players get traded, they can just be like, oh, we're just going to make this easy. We'll just, like, swap houses. Because now the contracts have to be even. Back in the day, it was like, oh, you know, you could just, like, make up to half the money or 75% of the money and then, you know, trade, like, 4 no contracts for a star player. And then it's like, all of a sudden, this guy's going to be paying for Giannis's house. It's like, wait a second, you know, Jaquez can't pay for Giannis's house. But, you know, now it's a little more even. Maybe Hero can look at Giannis's house, and maybe, I guess, you know, that's still even a little ways out there. But maybe it's a little closer. Maybe Hero takes Bobby Portis's house. I don't know if there's like an in-between. Giannis's guest house compared to Bobby Portis's normal house. No, Bobby Portis's normal house has to be up there for sure. Chat, I always get confused after the World Cup ends on this on hey yo on Peacock. Hey yo. But because they always just, you know, they'll always autoplay to some type of movie or something afterwards. So I always think it's you know, I always just think we're in commercial break or something, and it just takes me a while to dial in that, like, oh, wait a second, this is like plot that's being unveiled here, because I thought we were in a really long Bowser commercial, but I'm like, no, I think this is actually a Bowser movie, because Bowser's just torching this whole city and they're not cutting away. So I think it's happening. Hey, yo. Yoshi's looking sad. Oh, there's a lot of Yoshis, chat. What is the Yoshi species called? Hey, Yoshi? Is Yoshi is one Yoshi a Yoshi? And then Yoshi is the multiple of them? I don't know. But I don't know what Bowser just did there. That was, it seemed very destructive, but apparently they all kind of like it. And are we like in on the end of this movie? Like, what's going on? I thought Bowser was the villain. Hey, yo. Oh, nope. The Super Mario Bros. The movie. Oh, so are they like, are the troopers Bowser's army? Hey, yo. I guess we're exposing ourselves. Do we not know anything about the Mario universe? You got us there, chat. You got us there. Our knowledge of the Mario cinematic and the Mario gaming universe is pretty much zero at this point. We did have one version of, I'm saying that, like, you know, we only had one. It's not that we had one. I'm just saying of the games that we had. You know, fortunately, we were blessed enough to have multiple video games. You know, but you know, we were, you know, the mark of a good childhood, I guess. But you know, the one Mario game that we did have, or I guess that we played, because now that I'm thinking about it, we had a Mario Party, but we just never played it as kids. It is what it is. Your boy was a committed Madden player. Committed Madden in 2K. You know, you spend so much time creating players and redrafting franchises and leagues on 2K, you don't have time to queue up Mario Party. It is what it is. But we did have a Mario Kart game that we played, so I guess I know the characters from Mario Kart. You know, like, obviously you have, well, well, what am I going to sit here and name Mario characters? I could probably get to like 15, 20, you know, the All-NBA. What's the All-NBA of Mario characters? You know, you got Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, Bowser, Donkey Kong, and then, is that 5? Yeah, the 2 and then the 3. So that is probably, if that's not your first team, you know, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I don't know. Again, maybe the second team is where we start to lose it there. I don't know. You get Waluigi, Wario. Probably not. It's probably Koopa, Troopa, Toad. Is Toad's second team? He might be in Mario Kart, and then I guess after that it might be up for debate as well too. But you know, I guess maybe we'll see how much of this this Super Smash Bros. Movie ends up playing. I'm telling you, not a lot more because I'm turning it off the minute I get up. It is what it is. The first, I'm telling you right now, you want to know it's like a, what happened next. It's a behind the scenes. I'll tell you right now what the post credit scene of the pod is. What happens right when I get up. If you wanted just a little slice of the world here behind the scenes of the Rem and Sam pod, just visualize this. The minute I get up, I'm taking about a step and a half over to the mini TV over there that Super Mario Bros is playing. Actually, I've got the remote right here, so I'm actually gonna have the remote in hand now. So I'm queued up, ready to go, and I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna turn it off, and I'm probably actually gonna switch over to a classic game. It is what it is, but that's just a slice of life. Just so you guys know what's gonna happen right after this is that Mario movie is going bye bye. It is what it is. So it better pack a lot of lore into these next couple minutes so I can really learn about these characters because not a lot. The countdown clock is on. But that does. Speaking of autoplay, I did want to mention this. It has nothing to do with nothing, but maybe that's perfect. Maybe it's a good thing I forgot about it until right now. But I was watching. Again, speaking of autoplay, we may be the autoplay MVP over here. Is that an award we can go for? Hey, yo. I guess. Well, probably not at the BETs, but it was just the award show that happened, so that's why I was thinking about it. But either way, if there is an award show that we can win the autoplay watcher of the year. I don't know what that is, but I feel like we're going for that right now. The autoplay has just been crazy. It autoplayed the other day to this one movie that was, I thought it was gonna, because I'd been watching horror movies, I thought it was like a comedy that was gonna like turn into a horror movie, and then I just realized that I was just watching a bad comedy, and I was like, oh, I have to turn this off. I don't even remember who the like the corny boyfriend, not stepdad, but the mom boyfriend character was. It was the most like I guess I don't want to like, again, we're just in a pessimistic mood. It is what it is. It was the most overwritten movie I think I've ever seen. It was just like, I'm not always one that's like, people are like, oh, people don't talk like this in movies. I feel like that's sometimes a selective criticism. Like most dialogue situations are invented. It is what it is. But hot take here on the Rem and Sam pod. So I not always a fan of that when people they don't talk like this. Sometimes that's better. Yes, I don't talk like that. I'm stupid. I have no grammar. I don't know any words. Like, please, yes, Aaron Sorkin, write a good sentence there, because if he talks like me, it's not going to be a good movie. So, I actually kind of want you to elevate the script a little bit. That's the point of screenwriting sometimes. But either way, what was I even saying there? This was one example of that, where I'm like this. It was almost like listening to a Drake song at this point, where again, we're just ripping everybody up tonight. It is what it is. But where it's almost a little too metaphorical in terms of like, and I'm like this, and I'm like that, and just like this, like that type of situation. Maybe that was sort of his comment on the like that verse, is like every rhyme scheme he has to have is, like Lisa, something Bonet, and then it's just like, hey, like Little Caesar, I making za, and it's just like, I guess, hey, Drake probably not going to be hiring us as a ghostwriter after this, but maybe he is. He's like, oh, that's, a little, I never thought about Little Caesar pizza combo there, but oh, Little Caesar, I'm hot and ready. Hey, that might be a pause there. I guess now that's probably more on the R&B side of things. But either way, it can get a little repetitive like that, and that's what the movie was like there for a second. It's just like every scenario is like, well, I forget. She had one there's like this. It's like the sort of family drama. Mom's got the boyfriend, the girl's not a fan of it, the son is just kind of like oblivious to the whole thing the entire time. I forget what his stick was. He was like, fine. This was all in like 7 minutes. There was so much packed into 7 minutes. It might be in my continued watching it. Let me see if I can track this down real quick. It was almost fascinating how disconnected the writing was from anything I've ever seen. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Here, Summer's Last Resort. Again, I thought for sure I was headed for horror, but it just says on Tubi comedy. So I stopped it at about, let me see how many minutes I got into this here real quick. 13 minutes. I got 13 whole minutes into Summer's Last Resort before I realized this is not turning into I don't think this is going to pivot into a scary movie. I was like, I think they're just making these jokes the whole time. I almost wish I could skip back. Can we just like? I wish I could just like play the audio for some of this movie. Like this is crazy. Oh, she has this encounter with Captain Otto at the bar. Hey, yo, Captain, if you ever need somebody to rock your boat. I guess that's not that's actually like one of the more normal lines in the whole thing. I gotta find the scene where they're queuing up to go to the vacation. I was like queuing up to go to a vacation like this. I was like, this is absolutely a horror movie. But uh no, yeah, okay. She's like she and Glenn is like she is tequila and Glenn is lukewarm chamomile. They don't go together. Like there's just they literally don't go together, but those things have never ever not gone together in a not gone together way. If that makes sense. Again, like oil and water. Like, hey, yo, I guess we got to be careful what what elements we're bringing up these days. But again, it's like those, and I guess they haven't mixed lately. Hey, yo, not to drop some political commentary in there. But there are classic combos that it's like those things don't mix. Again, speaking of political commentary, but again, it's not like tequila and chamomile, like lukewarm chamomile. Is that like a classic? Like we don't mix those things. I don't know. So again, it just doesn't. It's just like a little disconnected there. I guess we're not going to just start tearing. We're going to end this by ripping apart Summer's Last Resort here. But what else? What else can we find here for? Oh yeah, I guess. Well, I'm not going to break down mother-daughter dynamics. I really can't speak on that, to be honest. So, again, I don't really know what's going on there. But she's a little too excited about going to the Caribbean for, she's like, our family in the Caribbean. It's like, okay, I mean, that is cool, but you don't need to, belittle yourselves too much like that. I guess this is a little more, world building here. The Vice Principal Awards, they're going down to the Caribbean for the Vice Principal Awards. So that's kind of a good comedy bit. That's, ha ha ha, Vice Principal. That's not serious. Okay, we already know he's a goofy guy at that point, so that's not bad. Oh yeah, the girl literally tells her mom a normal mom would say this, and then the mom just shakes it off. She's like, normal? It's like you're trying to offend me. So there is like a fun, I guess, playful, relationship there. But the tequila and lukewarm chamomile thing really did get me mad. I was like, that's just not a thing that anybody has ever tried to combine. I don't know what that is. And it's this stepdad character. I guess step friend. The step friend, is that a title that anybody has out there? I don't know. But it's this step friend character, the step boyfriend that this mom has, because he looks like he could pivot into like a psycho killer at some point. I don't know who the actor is here. Let me see if I can find his name real quick. But I was like, this guy's definitely gonna, turn and try to kill the whole family. Jerry O'Connell. So I guess, I was like, okay, if Jerry O'Connell's not the villain of this in 15 minutes, then I don't know what's happening. But it just really seemed like they were, building this out to where Jerry O'Connell's trying to take his girlfriend's family down to the Caribbean, and she's gonna end up cheating on him. But again, I'm not, this just seems like where the plot was going at this point. She's like, is this what rich people feel like all the time when they walk into the room? I guess, that's not too bad. This bathroom is bigger than my entire kitchen. I can smell the dolphins from here. I guess is a little bit of a strange line in some ways, but obviously just what do you say, just implying the ocean's really close by. And then she says, I have to share a room with my brother. Oh no. And then he breaks into this whole monologue about it. He's like, the Lord gives his bravest battles to the toughest soldiers. And it's just like, would any, again, I hate to say it, but I just don't know if anybody would respond like this. This is top shelf snorkeling gear. So again, there is like some gold here, but I just don't know. I like it, James Bond, a little dangerous. Okay, Chad. Again, I don't really, I don't know what's happening. Oh, and then I think the mom literally threatens to like, what do you say? I guess we're trying to keep it family friendly here to end the show, but she's gonna, she's gonna get down with the guy if she doesn't go to the pool. She's like, okay, daughter, you won't go to the pool with me, then I'm just gonna go bang Jerry O'Connell in the back room over here if you don't go down. It's like, okay, I've never, parenting 101, I guess. So I guess we'll maybe we'll maybe probably not watch the rest of this and turn it back on. But if it does autoplay, we'll report back, I guess, in the last of Summer's Last Resort. And that's not even what I wanted to mention as well too. What I wanted to mention was in this movie, we're just dropping this in at the end here. Maybe we'll save it. We'll save it. we'll save it. Tune in the next time to figure out what what we learned from Tubi autoplay. Hey yo, because maybe I'll do some research and see if it was actually what I was thinking. But I was like, I saw a scene in a movie, and I was like, did that inspire an album cover? So I will have to see, and I guess so that's a good teaser right there. Will the next live stream will start up. I'll see if this scene inspired a certain album cover that is an iconic album cover that obviously well, again, yes, you'll know what it is, but I'll see if, because again, it was an autoplay situation where I looked up and I was like just looking up randomly and not having paid attention to the movie one bit in that moment. I looked up and saw the scene and I was like, that scene is the cover. And then I went back and kind of replayed some of the dialogue in the scene, and I was like, okay, I can see the connection here between, some lyrics of a song and then this scene here. I guess do I spoil like what the subject matter of the album cover is? I guess I won't do it. But just know there's a scene in a movie on Tubi right now that I think might have inspired an album cover, and it just auto-played for me. So I guess, those are your clues. We'll see you next time on the Rem and Sam pod, and we'll reveal what it is. But yeah, NBA news, I guess we'll see if we get any more of it. But yeah, either way, it'll be Sunday when we're here for the live stream again. So, thank you for jumping on with us tonight. Sunday, Tuesday, Friday is the typical schedule here on the live stream. So if you want to jump on, any or all of the nights, obviously we are here hanging out on the YouTube. You can catch us on the podcast feeds. You can hit us up on the Instagram at Rem and Sam Pod on Instagram as well. So we will see you guys Sunday. Enjoy your day tomorrow and spending time with, the importance of, hopefully if you're spending time with family and friends, that you guys are able to have fun doing that. So we will see y'all reconvene on Sunday in a couple hours here. I guess, hey, we just got to go. It is what it is. Peace.